Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. Today, Louisville makes the national news for the wrong reasons. Tony Khan does a TV show the wrong way, and we'll see whether it's AEW or the WWE that are using the wrong people. And joining me for all this and more, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. If talking to him is wrong, I don't want to be right. Be great, Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, or I guess said about me to other people while I waited to come in. We have an action-packed show.
What the hell are you saying now? Maybe I don't want to talk to you.
I shot out of a cannon. I can't wait to talk about this great episode of Dynamite, one of the great episodes of all time.
I hit the wrong button.
He was there a moment ago, folks.
I came back. I hit the wrong button. I leaned on the mouse when I was trying to sit up and get my teeth lined up in the right place where I could. The other day I had a problem. My tongue lolled over my eye teeth and I couldn't see what I was saying. Mama Cornette used to say that all the time. Anyhow, something that I had underestimated, or that's the wrong word. I was just astonished that the grasp of the geography of metropolitan Louisville, Kentucky was lacking on the part of people all around the country and the world. That I appreciate that everybody was worried about me, and we're going to talk about what happened here. And it's not a comedy bit because they're still looking for people, by the way. But I appreciate that a bunch of people were worried about me and Stacy after last Tuesday when the UPS plane, it didn't technically crash because it never really hardly got 400 feet off the ground. It exploded is what it did out here at the Louisville airport. And a lot of people were worried about us, and she tweeted out a thing and you put out a thing on Facebook because people were asking, but I think we are actually in our area one of the small slivers of the entire county that was not under a shelter-in-place order. But I was thinking, well, why are they asking about us? We don't. And then I realized that everybody around the world doesn't know the geography of Louisville, but it was brought home to me when you told me on the phone, I'm going to expose this, Brian. You said, I didn't know Louisville had an airport.
Yeah, small little rinky-dink town. I figured you guys went to Cincinnati.
Yeah, well, because you've flown through
Cincinnati,
the Cincinnati airport, but the Cincinnati, Ohio airport is technically, they call it the Greater Cincinnati Airport because it's across the river in northern Kentucky. But that's 90 miles away from here. As far as a major market airport in the state of Kentucky, we're international now. It used to be just poor old Standiford Field. Now it's the Muhammad Ali International Airport. You can fly to London. Can't fly to Kansas City nonstop without going to Atlanta, but you can fly to London. The point is, this happened this past Tuesday in the Louisville airport, where we are not a busy hub for any of the airlines necessarily, but this is the hub, the world port for UPS, United Parcel Service. There are 300 UPS flights coming in and out of the Louisville airport every day, in addition to the commercial traffic that they have, right? But UPS and their sorting facility, this plane was headed to Honolulu. They go out everywhere and 24 hours a day, they don't stop. So we're sitting here in the house, and Stace accidentally I was watching MeTV, but Stace had the news on, and she came in and she said, there's a plane crash. And it had happened at like 5:15 or so on weekday afternoon at rush hour, which I know people are going to say, well, it's not airport rush hour. It's rush hour because I'm going to tell you where the highways are. And I looked, and by that time they had video on screen of a cloud of smoke, black smoke that was rising up from that area. Because, I mean, the TV stations were scrambling as this was happening during their newscast to get people and cameras and shit. There was more smoke than there was sky already. It looked like the spaceship in Independence Day. And then you see flames, whoosh, not hundreds of feet, but thousands of feet flying up in the fucking air. And what the fuck? So apparently what happened was that this flight to Honolulu, UPS plane, 3 crew members, was taking off and never really, as it got like a couple hundred feet in the air, either the engine blew up and fell off or fell off and blew up. I'm not sure of the chain of events, but one of the engines, boom, and then it just starts going back down. And by that point was going 200 miles an hour and shot past the airport and into a thankfully mostly industrial park type of area where there weren't like heavily concentrations of people. There was a junkyard, like a pick your own auto part place there that took up a lot of the room, but it landed or not landed, but came to either blasted on the way through or came to rest on top of a petroleum recycling plant. So you had a MD-11 jumbo jet going 200 miles an hour, already on fire, slamming into a goddamn oil recycling place. And you can see now because it looked like the video of in Vietnam when they would carpet bomb places. Imagine about a half mile or more of that in the middle of the goddamn airport area. And it landed on top of an auto parts place, and they lost 2 employees, and the people that they are still looking for apparently were whatever customers were in this place. And then they came up, they got dash cam footage from somebody going down, I think it was Grade Lane, which goes from like the airport side of the airport down over to the fairgrounds. And it looks computer generated, where imagine if you're driving down a 4-lane kind of side street in an industrial park and a jumbo jet goes 100 feet above you across the road and crashes into a fireball in a building behind you to the right. What the fuck? So anyway, this is what happened, and automatically the phone started ringing everywhere, and the alerts were going off. It was a shelter in place. They extended a shelter in place area around the airport where stay in your homes because it's raining oil. It was raining fucking oil. They said everybody stay in your homes 10 miles on either side of the airport, which went all the way into downtown and to the Ohio River to the north, to the county line on the south, and within 5 miles from us on the east, and pretty much to the river on the west. So just the whole town was like, don't go outside. And the smoke went all the way to the river. It's like a 10-mile giant cloud of smoke that was getting bigger and going with the wind. The flames, they shut obviously the whole airport down, all the airspace. Every goddamn fire department, police department, emergency response team in the county and surrounding counties was mobilized. And here's I talked about the logistics. Brian Ribbit, we've always talked about the big arena Freedom Hall here at the fairgrounds in Louisville, right? Until the Yum Center, that was where all the big WWE events were held, right?
Yeah.
If this plane had just been going the other way, distance-wise and logistically, it would have just landed on top of Freedom Hall. Because that's the north side of the airport. The busiest interstate, north to south in the state, Interstate 65 from Nashville through downtown Louisville on to Indianapolis, goes directly east of the airport. And the busiest, the Waterston Expressway at 5 o'clock on a weekday can be a parking lot. It goes directly north of the airport to where when you get off the exit from the Waterson to get to the airport, you're going across 65. They all join there on the north side. There is Kentucky Kingdom, where OVW used to have its events, the amusement park next to a water park, next to the Fair and Expo Center, the state fairgrounds, with Freedom Hall and a stadium. And then on the east side, about the same distance away from the airport, is the fucking Ford plant. One of the biggest employers besides UPS in the city, and they run 24 hours. There's a shift there all the time. I don't know how, I'm not an expert in how the runways are laid out at the airport, but the only way this plane could have gone practically and not landed on one of the things I just talked about was the way it did. And so it could have been on the interstate. But also at Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs is a couple miles the other direction. And depending on, instead of rush hour, if it had been Derby Day or the NCAA tournament or whatever, who knows what the fuck could have occurred. So as this is now, there's, I think the latest word is 12 people were dead, but like 14 or 15 are still, they're trying to find. Let's put it that way. So from what the fuck? And 300 of these things are going in and out of here every day. Can you now tell me, Brian Lass, that you are not starting to see my point of view when it comes to air travel?
No, I used to think you were a bit hysterical about it. And now I realize I completely agree. I don't want to fly anywhere ever for any reason, whether the plane is big or small. If it doesn't run out of fuel, it'll hit another plane. It'll just come down. The air traffic controlmen are all gone. Just, it's not worth it. Go for a walk. Get on the phone. Like, it's just not worth it.
I swear to God, you remind me of the Moyle in the Seinfeld episode now. But nevertheless,
yes,
no, but
not worth it.
But here's the thing is that, anything I can blame on the current administration, but this had nothing to do with the air traffic controller situation, which also now they've reduced the flights in and out of here 10%, but it had nothing to do with that because this was complete plane malfunction, as Carlin would say, broken plane. And they now have announced that this plane was in for major service and a major something was done back in September, and it was returned to the fleet a few weeks ago, and it had major shit done to it. And well, we haven't had any problems since then for the past 3 weeks. So I think they ought to be keeping an eye on that. But I'll tell you, Governor Andy Beshear, baby, remember the name Andy Beshear. In hopefully 10 or 12 years when sanity returns and they're looking for a nice, just level-headed human being.
Do you have term limits for your governor?
I don't think he can't run again. Hopefully he'll then be a senator or whatever, because he's only 40-something. But two-term Democratic governor in Kentucky that went for Schittler by 70% or whatever, because yes, Louisville and Lexington are outnumbered by the rest of the state. But whether it's the floods whether it's the tornadoes. He was here in Louisville 2 hours after the crash on local television, telling people he declared state of emergency, telling people all of the agencies that were responding, telling people to stay in their homes away from the raining oil business, and on fucking site in 2 hours. And and people listen to him because he makes sense and he's legitimately worried about things and doing something about it. But was right there.
And like you said, we heard from a lot of people not knowing anything other than Jim Cornette lives in Louisville that heard Louisville plane crash. Jim must be near the site. We hope him and Stacy are okay.
I mean, there were people in this, the area that was affected. Like I said, it's like a half a mile or more of just scorched earth, and I don't know how wide, but it was and neighborhoods are around. If it had gone any further, another 500 yards, boom, it's in the subdivision. But it was an industrial area where Darby Allin may have been living in the back seat of a car or something, but people didn't actually live in this area. So which is, again, was amazing because it's probably the only place it could have gone where it wasn't in a neighborhood or in a place that could have, at like a sports stadium, held thousands and thousands of people for some event if it had been a different time. They just had 200,000 people at the fairgrounds for that music festival in September. And, you never know.
Yeah, that was about as much jet fuel as you could have.
Well, landing on the oil recycling plant.
Jeez.
So, and there was still, they lowered the distance of the shelter in place over the next day or two. There's still people don't drink the water because some of the fuel had run off into some type of water thing. I'm not an expert again on the Metropolitan Sewer District. But there's still, they did an environmental test on everything and cleared the air, so to speak. But yeah, there's multiple. They're telling people, if you find a piece of the plane in your yard or wherever you find it, don't touch it. Call the professionals, because they're going to find all the pieces, what are left after this incredible blaze, incendiary fucking blast furnace, and they're going to put it all back together. They've already found the black box, which is why they know how fast it was going, how high it got, the whole thing. Which brings the question, why don't they make the whole plane out of what they make the black box out of?
And I guess to the few people that did ask, this has no effect on the shipments of Heroes and Friends.
No, I swear to God, there were comments on Twitter. Were the books on the plane? No, we use the United States Postal Service while they're still in business. I have nothing against the people at UPS, but that's just what Hotchkiss is doing. So,
Jim Cornette book explosion. I mean, can you imagine?
No, you know what was on the Power Town figures? God damn it! We were sending them over to Honolulu to be cleaned, and then we were going to bring them back here.
We have some bad news, guys. We told you we were going to send the figures via airmail. Well, there was an accident. We've lost all the figures.
But anyhow, so that was the excitement over here for the week. In between. Well, I'll just do it now since you've brought it up in such a commercial fashion with no regard for the people who are going through things here. I
send my sympathies to anyone listening who is affected by this blazing inferno.
But the only goddamn thing I've done is watch plane crash footage and sign books, and I'm happy to report that what's that old country song Johnny Cash did? How high's the water, mama? 8 feet and rising. The flood is receding over here because we have signed. I say we. I have signed. I'm not auto pinning or using any accomplices, folks, but I have signed, and we, meaning me and Hotchkiss, have processed over 1,500 books now, and well, that's not even halfway. We're close there, about close, but we're right. I'm getting more accomplished than are coming in now. Because I told you last week I handed Hotchkiss 400 things and he handed me back 375 orders. Well, we've gained a little bit more ground, and we've got an assembly process to this where a lot of the similar things are getting filled at the same time, so it saves in between labor. But folks, JimCornette.com, if you want to get in on the hit new book of the wrestling industry, Heroes and Friends, I can do this. The orders that we have by right now are going to go out before Thanksgiving. And that's maybe even well before, well, I won't say well. Folks, if you want it by Christmas, please, in the next couple of weeks, I would say at best, get this to me. I'm being serious. I don't want to be late down anybody's chimney. You hate to come late at Christmas. JimCornette.com. That's the plug there that I was going to do. But anyway, is this your show or my show?
This is your show. What was your favorite video? What did you think? Which video of the plane crash did you think captured everything? I like the one of the trucker where you have the point of view of what he's seeing, but also you see him sitting there.
Oh, they did a split screen and he's like, oh, shit. No, I don't know if I grade them, but I would have to say the one of the guys driving down the road, feeling hungry and cold, and all of a sudden there's the plane in front of him like he's on the fucking tarmac and they're right over the building, and that people would not, if you didn't know that had actually happened, that would be one of those AI fucking deals. I'm not going over to the airport in the next little while. You have to, if you go anywhere in the western end of the county, you have to kind of go by that area. But I don't have call to go over there very often either. You know where I don't have call to go very often, Brian?
Where's that?
Any goddamn where. I like it that way. Where have you been? Are you on the international desk? This is my show. I know. That's why I'm going to try to take it somewhere. If you goddamn quit hanging around my neck, dragging me back in. You've been on the international desk, I understand. Is there news of the former Prince Andrew that is now Andrew Mountbatten Messerschmitt III?
Actually, there is a little bit of news. As a follow-up, these have been popular segments here on the show. People like hearing your take on one of the oldest promotions in the world, the royal family in England.
The royal family.
I have a couple things here. This one caught my attention from the New York Post. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor paid 1 peppercorn annually to rent the Royal Lodge.
Oh, God damn it.
And UK polls are fuming.
What?
1 peppercorn.
1 peppercorn. You
can see why people don't like this fucking guy, don't you?
Well,
send me 40 hookers. By the way, here's my peppercorn for the next year's rent.
Here's my peppercorn now. I'm assuming that this is some kind of, since the whole royal family thing, now the gimmick is ceremonial anyway, right? And it's just their gimmick because they love the tradition over there across the pond. But is this some kind of like 1312 Magna Carta addendum where they hadn't even come up with the farthing yet and they were trading in peppercorns, or what's the goddamn What's the gig here, Slick?
Well, again, I'll go to this article by Alex Oliveira. How corny. Andrew Windsor, the English commoner formerly known as Prince.
They're putting the boots to him already now. You're nothing but a commoner.
He was required to pay what amounts to a single peppercorn a year to rent the royal 30-room mansion where he's lived for 3 decades. The odd rent arrangement dates back centuries to a time when the spicy little seeds brought a saucier price than today.
Holy Jesus
And were
Christ.
frequently used as a symbolic sum in English real estate deals that required payment to be legally validated. 1 peppercorn is typically a stand-in for the likes of $1 rent in a lease today. I don't know why my voice cracked there. In a lease today, according to The Guardian. And it is unlikely Prince Andrew has been actually handing over a little black ball to the royal family every year since he moved into the Royal Lodge.
Oh, I bet he's been handing over some balls to members of the royal family, but
even though Andrew is already on his way out of the digs, thanks to his ties to the late pedophile financier, Jeffrey Epstein.
Wait a minute. You know, they should change that description because that makes it sound like he only financed the pedophiles. Like the pedophiles would come to him for financial backing.
That is the way it reads there. You're exactly right. But lawmakers are still demanding answers about the nutty setup. I have a quote here from MP Jeffrey Clinton Brown. There is considerable and understandable public interest in the spending of public money in relation to Prince Andrew, which in part stems from the fact that he is no longer a working royal and from serious and disturbing allegations made against him.
A working royal.
So again,
what was he on the crew that had to go do the fucking groundskeeping over at Windsor Castle one weekend a month, or how was he a working royal?
If it's 1 peppercorn for rent, how much you think they're paying the landscapers?
Jesus, I bet not a goddamn single solitary mustard seed.
He is now expected to be moved far away from the royal family to a home. He's going to be moved far away from the royal family to a home on Sandringham Estate after reportedly demanding 2 homes on the Windsor grounds, Frogmore Cottage and Adelaide Cottage, where Prince Harry and Prince William formerly lived with their families.
Is there a goddamn legal statute in the courts in England that this son of a bitch can't just be told to go and get a job somewhere and rent him an apartment? How is it ultimately, no matter what he does or how far away the royal family wants to move him, they're still putting his fucking fat ass up somewhere? Why? Because of your sperm donor?
Roger Clinton had to work gigs. He had to go book dates.
Billy Carter had to come up with a beer. No, I've said we've got many fine listeners across the pond over there in jolly old England. Can they explain to us why this sumbitch, they can't just say, no, just go on and, fucking Home Depot is hiring. I don't know what the fuck. Have you saved any money during the time you've been a working royal?
It does say here, Jim, Andrew, whose only known source of personally earned income is a small pension from his time in the Royal Navy, will have his life privately funded by King Charles himself going forward, according to Buckingham Palace.
Why? You've embarrassed me on a public stage. You are a wastrel and a fornicator. You are banished from the family. Go get a goddamn job. Or you should have saved your goddamn money, since you apparently have to spend none. How much are they paying the pensioners on the Royal Navy fucking pensioner goddamn deal?
And I have the official statement from Buckingham Palace. I think last time we read a statement, actually, this is the official order. The king has been pleased by letters patent under the Great Seal of the Realm, dated 3 November 2025, to declare that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor shall no longer be entitled to hold and enjoy the style, title, or attribute of Royal Highness and the dignity of Prince. So that's the official statement. Could he get sued if he just kept calling himself, if I went from WWF to WCW and did the gimmick that Vince created, he would sue the company and I wouldn't be able to use it.
I think he's going to have to be the people's prince.
Why wouldn't you just if you have nothing else going on, just wrap yourself in like a whole new, I've decided I'm the king of England. Like, why not go all the way?
Well, no, I think he needs to appeal to the people. Yes. All my life, I've never had to work. Don't you wish you were me? I had 40 hookers at one time. I'm the people's prince. All of you would have done the same. And then he didn't see it worked over here. It could work over there. Just be a big, fat, fucking rich pig.
Like, seriously, do autograph shows. I mean, people are going to hate him and try to kill him and stuff, but do autograph shows. Do whatever you need to do. Get out there, work your gimmick, make some money.
He could get the crowns from where Lawler got the crowns.
Because King Charles supporting him doesn't mean like, here's endless amounts of money to just buy, but you have to stay home. Just stay home and, it's probably the bare minimum he's going to give him, I would think.
Is there a hooker allowance from King Charles?
Man, if you're a hooker, and you hear from Windsor or Mountbatten Windsor, do you think like this is my golden opportunity? Like either I'm going to get a bunch of money out of him or I'm going to the Daily Mail.
Well, no, because now he's cut off, number one. Then number two, we already know he's getting hookers, so it's not like news. So he's like, but now if he knew about King Charles and whatever King Charles has been doing around Camilla, boy, howdy. When she wears long earrings, she looks like a set of Venetian blinds.
Yeah, he's too late. The scandal was cheating on Diana with Camilla, and then he just stayed with Camilla for the rest of his life.
Well, but we don't know what else he was doing because he's the prince. And apparently his brother was deflecting all the fucking heat by going off and being a complete fucking lunatic. So I wonder if old Andrew, formerly Prince, now Mountbatten Smithington, has any dirt on Charlie.
All right. Well, Charlie says, I love my good and plenty, and this is your show.
Well, it's my show, but you got to help me understand something because we're going to talk about later on Tony Khan, poor Tony, as I feel for him. When wrestling finally drives you to the wall and you've lost your mind, it's a horrible thing. And we'll talk about that later, but how could he not even bother to have anybody do the due diligence, since he's the wrestling nerd, the statistics nerd, the factoids nerd, the history nerd? He regularly apparently calls Uncle Dave, who's the biggest independent wrestling news conglomerator, if it's an apartment house in Japan with the GLEAT cast, he'll know about it. Uncle Dave. How did they manage to name their new title after a goddamn championship that the NWA is using right now? And announce that the reason for bringing that title is to honor the heritage of when it was the NWA title, when it's the NWA title right now. They're actively using it. They haven't. I know some people will say whatever the NWA is doing right now is a secret, and there may be validity to that. But if you're enough of a wrestling nerd that you could bother to do any kind of, as the kids say now, do your research, Google it, whatever. How did they do this?
intentionally, clearly. You know, I don't think it was like, oh, we had no idea the NWA has one too. I think they knew, they didn't care. Maybe there's some feelings between the two over the Shockwave trademark. We can get to that in a minute.
Well, why would it be so important to have another belt in a company where there are so many championship belts that nobody keep track of what's what and who's got what, and it's ridiculous? You got to name the new belt that and invite, again, people are going to, regardless of what kind of validity that Tony might think that he has or whatever, people are always going to pick the little guy against the dick, except for the most AEW extremists, and they generally are the ones that like the little promotions, are they not?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but, you know, thinking about this, I have a problem with Tony Khan creating another championship. I don't have a problem with him naming it the National Championship. However, that changes once you pretend that this has anything to do with the old NWA National Championship.
And actually name the people in the talking about it that held it in the 80s.
Yeah, Wahoo got a shout out in 2025 on AEW Dynamite. So, I mean, it seems kind of shitty, but I mean, there are the same titles in so many different places. It just so happens that Crockett and WCW didn't have the same exact titles as WWF, but yeah, again, I don't think that if Tony didn't have 20 championships already, I wouldn't have a problem with this. But it does seem like they're fucking with the NWA when they pretend that it has anything to do with the NWA's. Well, it's not even really their history. The history of the NWA's aligned themselves with first.
Well, again, they're trying to make it was on this network for the, yeah, congratulations. It's way too tenuous a reason to continue to do all this shit just because it's been 30 years since Grandpa Munster has had Super Scary Saturday on TBS. I'd love for him to bring it back. I don't know if it would be successful. But it's just, I don't understand what his fascination is with the endless belts for no reason and no purpose. And even if he wants to get even with the NWA, because the trademark thing that you're about to bring up, why do it this way, where they just kind of looks bad or indifferent to most people because they don't care?
Yeah, and again, it is an announcement in the midst of a tournament to crown new women's tag team champions. Like, they're not even done with that yet, and they already announced the next title that's coming. I have an article here from WrestleNomics. He did a good write-up of this. They're on Patreon. AEW's new national championship title on Dynamite on Wednesday quickly caught attention. Not just because it'll be roughly the 12th title belt for the promotion, but
now wait, and that's not counting Ring of Honor either, right?
Oh, I don't know. Actually,
it's not. I know it's not because remember we counted, and I think that's we got up 17 or 18 if you count this new one with Ring of Honor included. Go ahead.
But because the title shares a name with a championship in a prior incarnation of the National Wrestling Alliance in the 1980s, as well as the current version of the NWA under Billy Corgan's leadership. AEW's introduction to the title, whose first champion is to be decided at the company's Full Gear pay-per-view on November 22nd, also coincides with a separate...
in a casino gauntlet match. Wow, we've never seen that idea from Tony Khan before.
It's funny, my first thought before I even go back to this was someone must be returning and say, I'm not coming back unless you give me a belt. Well, let's go back. It also coincides with a separate ongoing dispute between AEW and the NWA over a different name, Shockwave. G.I. Joe should get on this. There was a G.I. Joe figure, all in blue, named Shockwave. At least one NWA wrestler claimed on social media that the introduction of the new title by AEW was retaliation over the Shockwave trademark litigation. The NWA has used that name for some of its wrestling events as early as 2020. AEW tried to trademark the name last year, possibly for a new television program, which has not launched. AEW and the NWA did not respond to our request for comment for this report. Our questions to AEW included asking whether the company has any response to the claims that the new title's name was chosen as a retaliatory move. We also asked whether AEW has any interest to use the Shockwave name. So let's stop there. That sums up a lot of it.
Well, again, Tony has a fascination with the names and the belts and the whole thing, I know. But let's say that they wanted to call their show Shockwave. And another wrestling company has been not just in Dyersburg, Tennessee at the Herb Welch Wrestleplex, but on the internet and easily accessible Google searches that you can find, using it for a few years. Did he go to Billy Corgan and say, hey, I got a lot of money. How much you want to just let me use Shockwave? Well, if he did and Billy Corgan turned him down and said, no, I don't even want, however much you want to give me, I'll keep it, then just come up with another fucking name. It's a shame. I said before, when Ring of Honor went on the air on the Sinclair stations, I'd called Howard Brody because Ringmasters was so cool that he used for the New Japan shows that he syndicated worldwide with him and Hiro Matsuda. I said, are you still using that? Can I use it? Can we work something out? No, I'm still going to do something with whatever. I said, okay. God damn it. I love you, Howard. But we didn't fucking just use it because he had used it and it wouldn't be right. And he would have potentially sued. But even if he would have sued, you see what I'm saying? It's not, Tony Khan's got more problems with his fucking TV shows than what the names of them are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there must be a breakdown in communication, if there ever was any, between the NWA and AEW. And maybe Tony, who does seem to get upset when people sue, even if they're right. Maybe Tony did do this as a fuck you to the NWA. To me, the bigger issue is just that there's another belt in AEW. That to me is the biggest issue. If you're the NWA, do you use this? Is it worth it to lean into this on your show? Us versus them. They're trying to screw with us. Is it worth it or not worth it?
Well, unless their legal advice is to not do that because for whatever the legal problem is. Yeah, Mike Mondo is the national champion right now. I would have him out there going, I'm the real NWA national champion. We can prove it. Here's the lineage. We don't know what you're trying to pull, AEW, but either if you want to come over here or I'll come there. And I pretty much can almost guarantee you that if it was really a goddamn one of the old shoots from the 30s and whoever they could put the fucking belt on or are going to put the belt on in AEW, Mondo would fucking stretch them, even though he's too nice to actually do it. And they'd never let it go to that, but you could believe it. I'd say fucking promo the hell out of it. I dare you to come and face me, he said.
I mean, Tony and Billy Corgan are both from Chicago, right? Or Tony's outside of Chicago, but same difference.
Oh, Tony's from Neptune. I don't think there's any goddamn Chicago connection there or whatever the fuck. You're going to sit down over a deep dish pizza. Corgan's a vegetarian. See, that's another reason not to trust him.
Well, I'm not even saying they should make up. I'm saying lean into it. This is my town. You better not come back here, Four Eyes. I'm going to knock you out.
Well, now then, have you seen Corgan looks like a goddamn disconnected bucket of body parts?
That's physically what makes it funny. That's what makes it funny.
So
think of Billy Corgan getting into a fist fight with Tony Khan. Tell me it's not a funny thought. Tell me it's not a slap fight you wouldn't want to watch.
That's like when the George Carlin routine. You can't make rape funny. Okay, imagine Porky Pig raping Elmer Fudd. This is that kind of the same vein of humor there.
Yeah, I still don't find that one funny. I don't know about what George Carlin was saying there, but
maybe it was the other way around. See, it's one way and not the other. I don't think it counts as bestiality.
No, well,
but nevertheless, speaking of screwing the pooch, so that's what Tony is doing right now with his company and with his new title.
Well, just to end this, do you think Tony's wrong to introduce the national title for whatever reason right now?
I think it's ludicrous to introduce any more titles when what he needs to do is get rid of half of what he's got and make the other ones important. So there's that. I think that it's needless to introduce a championship of the same name as one of the smaller companies that with a lot of fans is always going to get the underdog goodwill. Tony's got all these billions of dollars. He's picking on these, even though Corgan's a rock star, he's peanuts compared to, his bumper man father. I think it's just stupid to name it the same thing as a current championship in another company and try to draw the lineage to the goddamn title when it was an NWA title when the other company is technically the NWA. And it also with the Shockwave thing, again, come up with your own shit. If it's active shit that's been done by a company that has some level of recognition in the last few years, the fuck? That's my opinion on it.
Well, we stay on top of this and see what happens.
But you know what? I'll tell you what. See, I asked that and answered it real quick. What we ought to do is just start a contest to decide maybe to pick, will Tony Khan introduce 3 more championship belts in 2026, or will he introduce 2 more, maybe less than 3 or more than 3? Stuff like that, because when you pick things like that and you're right about picking like that, then you can get paid at Prize Picks.
That's right.
I'm a picking and I'm a grinning. That's why our sponsor, our fine, proud sponsor that brings this show to you by virtue of sponsoring it, Prize Picks, when you make decisions there and you're right, you can get paid. You might make average everyday decisions, Brian, all the time about should you go to the store, should you go to the post office, or should you engage in some kind of carnal relations with a watermelon out in the field while the farmer's gone? You never know what decisions you might have in front of you.
Watch out for Gallagher.
But if you pick with Prize Picks and you say, for example, they're playing the football now, right? The football is still being played, isn't it?
The football is happening.
The football's happening. Well, let's say you want to pick where one of those football players that do those things is going to do more or less of them. Well, if you just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, if you get your picks right, you could cash in. You can get action on football and basketball. Boy, and I'll tell you what, I heard those football and basketball players get plenty of action in more than 40 states with Prize Picks. And they now offer stacks, so you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Do you think one of those players can get laid 3 times in the same game?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the size of the stadium and where you can go, I would think.
True, and it also, do they go into overtime?
Darryl Stroger
But do you want to pick?
Take women in between the innings, it's been said.
Well, take them where? If you want to pick more on Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup.
Yeah.
Only on Prize Picks.
Only there.
You can also follow the other Prize Picks players directly on the app. And I mentioned this, you'll know where they are at all times. And you get their phone numbers. So you can call them up in the middle of the night and ask them advice.
No tracking, and also no contact information.
You can copy their lineups in one click. And you just click it and it goes on microfilm, and then it puts it on the pigeon's leg and it flies it over to you. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, well, they're not going to be able to get away from you because you can hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. You'll also know whenever they're in the shower. And also, whenever they leave the house, you'll be able to track them digitally.
You won't know
via satellite.
You won't know those things. You can use your imagination, but what you can do with Prize Picks is use what you know, use your information and your feelings on things, and your intuition. That's right. And you could win.
Yes, and how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, if you want to play dirty, you can do that too. We encourage people.
No, we don't.
To get in there and rough it up.
Follow the rules. That's what we encourage with Prize Picks.
If you want, well, you got to, when you're down in the trenches and it's third down and you got to get in there and play some dirty football. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. Well, so then if you're counting on you getting paid if you're right, you can get paid sometimes if you're wrong. Well, you're getting paid a lot. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the Power Play, because that's where the big money is. And boy, I'll tell you what, that Power Play, it's electrifying. They're going to plug you in to a specially operated chair that you watch the game in. And if your picks hit, then boom, you got a bunch of money. But if your picks miss, you're plugged into the wall and they're going to give you a little zzz.
No, again, ladies and gentlemen, there won't be any Antonio Inoki. He can use a zap, just like you mentioned, but he doesn't have it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have it, use it. And of course, what we mean is intelligence,
don't lose it,
a love of sports, and the desire to win. Ignore a lot of what this man over here is saying, except for the facts. And the facts are that Prize Picks is waiting for you, Jim.
They're waiting for you.
What kind of great deal do we have for this wonderful listenership?
Well, I'll tell you what, you can download the Prize Picks app today and use the code JCE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So they're 10 times the amount of money you've got invested in this thing is going to return to you automatically there when you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup at code JCE on the Prize Picks app, because at Prize Picks, it's good to be right. It's better to be king, and it's best to get money for it.
That's right.
Yes.
Once again, Prize Picks one last time, Jim. Professionally and concise.
I just said it concisely. In a short version, no reason to go and get wordy about these things. We've got bigger fish to fry. JCE is the code to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. And for you people who do this type of thing, you know how to do this thing, and this is the thing that you like to do. All right, Brian. Well, before we get to the bad news about pro wrestling, we got bad news about the world in general. Things just keep on happening. I'd heard about this briefly. I saw a thing on the interwebs, but this is documentation from one of the listeners. This is an email from Rye, R-Y-E. What would that be short for?
It may be his locale. He may live in Rye, New York.
Well, no, it says
Rye Playland.
No, it doesn't. No, anyway, because it ain't Ryan. Well, we don't know that it's a guy, Rye, but he talks like a guy. Well, I'll let you be the judge, because this is announcing a bigger problem we've got here, ladies and gentlemen, in the country today. He says, Wendy's has betrayed, flabbergasted, hornswoggled, and bamboozled me. In recent years, I've heavily cut back on fast food for my health, but on the rare occasion that I would get takeout, it was almost always a classic double cheeseburger at Wendy's. Well, I had a particularly crappy week, so I stopped at Wendy's on Friday evening for some comfort food while going home from work. I ordered the double cheeseburger combo, get the bag, drive home, open the burger wrapper, And there's shredded lettuce on the burger where a whole leaf is supposed to be. Brian, Wendy's, after over 50 years, has gone to shredded lettuce.
Do you have an issue with shredded lettuce in general, or just because Wendy's burgers should be with a full leaf of lettuce?
Well, I will finish this email and then I will echo my thoughts. I ate the burger and fries because I was hangry well before I got this meal, and then I look online and find out that Wendy's changed the lettuce on their burgers and chicken sandwiches from whole leaf romaine lettuce to pre-shredded iceberg lettuce that arrives to the locations in bags. That whole leaf of romaine lettuce was vital to what set Wendy's burgers apart from those of other chains. The crunch of it complemented the savoriness of the beef and cheese perfectly. This shredded lettuce was a soggy, wet mess that on its own would be a garbage Caesar salad I wouldn't feed to a pet rabbit. And I think that echoes no, I hate shredded lettuce. Shredded lettuce comes off. If you're eating in a car, it's all over the place. It's all over your lap. It's all over the seats. It's all over everything. If you're eating inside, it's all over the table. It serves no goddamn purpose except to make the burger look thicker so you think you got more for your money.
It's good in a taco.
Well, that's a completely different subject that we're not talking about here. On sandwiches, no. And also, it's easier they just grind everything up. The fucking hard parts and all the other shit's easier to disguise. They're using all of the entrails of the lettuce.
You know, you dismissed me when I told you about my issues with them getting rid of the grilled chicken sandwich from the menu. But they started with the grilled chicken sandwich, now they're coming for your lettuce. Now you realize the problem's real?
Well, they didn't even start there. They started when they used to have the good fries, the big old fat, long, crunchy on the outside and tender on the inside French fries, and then they changed this fucking sea salt and skin on. It's like eating mulch chips. And then they changed the pickles, remember, years ago. And I thought the meat was spoiled because they were the bread and butter instead of the dill. I've never ordered pickles at Wendy's again since, so I don't know if they went back or not. Then you mentioned the grilled chicken, which was when I was watching my girlish figure, when I had a weight issue, the Asiago Ranch grilled chicken sandwich at least made me think I was doing something. They took that away. They quit flattening the patties until you got this oddly symmetrical, fucking exactly square, rubber-looking fucking fake patty that makes the burger too tall when you get a triple to get your mouth around it. The chili, there's no substance. There's practically no meat, and it's watery as cat's piss. What haven't they fucked up? And they never did bring back the hot apple turnover. So there you have it. The world's going to hell.
They have French toast sticks in the morning. For what it's worth.
They have French toast sticks in the. Why do I feel like we're Laurel and Hardy now?
Do you like a Big Mac?
French toast sticks in the morning.
Do you like a Big Mac? Because that's pretty much stayed the same forever.
I like a Big Mac only because of the sauce. So often I might get a quarter pounder, but ask them to put the Big Mac sauce on it. But then they fuck that up because you can't ask. People don't have goddamn comprehension for anything off of the set pattern and menu. The last couple of years that I was traveling, McDonald's was, now you get bacon on your burgers. 3 different times in a row, I went to McDonald's, ordered bacon on the goddamn burger. They didn't put bacon on the burger because they weren't used to putting bacon on their burgers. So I just quit ordering it. And I think they quit offering it because they never remembered to put the fucking shit on.
Wendy's does. Wendy's does put their bacon on their burgers, I can confirm.
But you know what? And that's another thing. You can read a newspaper through a strip of their bacon. It's lighter weight bacon than it used to be. I'm just telling you.
No, you're not lying. You're not lying.
I don't even think it's bacon.
And what about the Whopper?
I've got to the age where Burger King's flame broiled taste gives me the sour belches, to be quite honest. And also the frame broiled or the flame broiled taste is somewhat negated by the fact that they do it on Tuesday and then microwave it fucking Saturday afternoon for your dining pleasure.
That's what they do at Burger King?
The last number of meals I've had from Burger King, it didn't come directly off the fucking grill. There's a lot of microwave business going on at Burger King, I can guarantee you. I've been around, Brian. I've seen some things. As a matter of fact, I ended up, I'm trying now to remember what it was. I can't remember the exact thing, but I used to love Red Robin. The Red Robin burger chain. Do you have this up there? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I remember the jingle.
Well, I don't remember their jingle, but I used to like them until there was one in Baltimore that when I was up there to do post-production for Ring of Honor, Delirious and I went a couple times, and some way or another, I busted them as it was a microwave fucking burger. And then I started figuring it out. I ordered a couple, then I figured it out. They were relying heavily on the fucking nuclear energy also. So there.
All right.
You got to think about it.
Should someone use that? If they're going to do it, should they use that as their gimmick? Like, we will microwave your food. Your food will be ready so fast. You can just come here, get your food, and get the hell out of here because we will microwave it. We're going to tell you the truth. Unlike these other bastards.
Well, that might not be bad, but then when you go someplace and it takes forever and it's still microwaved, that really pisses you off. Dutch Mantel and I were at a goddamn IHOP.
Oh, the best.
Right next to the Universal in Orlando. After a show, it was fucking late. We were starving. And it took forever. And finally, they brought, and I'd gotten a burger and breakfast because I had missed both breakfast and dinner. And it was so goddamn microwaved, and the egg was rubber. I picked the 2 fried eggs up between 2 fingers and carried them up to the fucking front counter to show the woman, and it remained in one piece. And I'm wiggling as I'm saying, we waited 45 minutes and you bring me this to the fucking table, and I'm wiggling 2 fried eggs in the air in front of her that are not in any way falling apart. And then I said, just keep it all. We're going down the fucking street. And we left it sitting there.
Did she put up any kind of fight?
No, because apparently the egg disgusted her too. But I don't think they can't charge you if you don't eat anything, can they? Just because if you order it but you don't eat it, what if you die of a stroke between the time you ordered it and the time you goddamn get it at the table? Or are they going to charge the estate?
If you touch it, you buy it. You at least bought that egg.
Well, then I would have been more than happy to give her $1 for that egg so I could have fucking handed it off to her. She didn't look like she wanted to touch it. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Wendy's.
Oh, well, yeah. So fuck them. They've just disappointed me. It's like a child that you raised from an infant and suddenly turns to a life of crime and is just a wastrel and a scratch. They're the Prince Andrew of fast food. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Wendy Mountbatten Windsor.
Speaking of mighty people falling, you found an odd picture that you just sent me of the 4 strangest combination of people. I said that in an awkward fashion, but the strangest combination of 4 people. It fits. That I've ever seen it from your wrestling news files. And we've narrowed it down to a time frame, but it's a picture of Dory Funk Jr., Nick Goulas, and George Goulas with Jerry Lee Lewis. and and only two of them are actually wearing anything above the waist. You want to describe the photo there to the folks?
Yeah, again, this is a very interesting photo of a backstage, we figure, at a wrestling event / Jerry Lee Lewis concert. Dory Funk Jr. has a lot of sweat. Looks like he just wrestled a match. Looks rather young. Early 70s, probably. Jerry Lee Lewis, also no shirt. He's not sweaty. He's also not looking at the camera. He's kind of staring at Nick Goulas. Next to Jerry Lee Lewis, in between him and Nick Goulas, is what appears to be a very, very young George Goulas, or teenage George Goulas, maybe. Late teens.
No, I think if I'm right on the year there, I believe it would have been 1971 or 72, right as he was starting to become a TV announcer before he transitioned to referee in wrestling.
Well, he's wearing glasses and also the biggest patch I've ever seen on a blazer. And next to him is Nick Goulas with his famous Nick Goulas look. But Jerry Lee Lewis looks wild in this photo.
Well, and also there's an accompanying picture that's why we've been able to narrow this down a little bit. There's an accompanying picture of the front of the downtown, the Nashville Municipal Auditorium, the old building that Nick used to go to for big shows. And the marquee says July 1st, wrestling and Jerry Lee Lewis concert. And so I'm thinking the early 70s, that was the time period where Jerry Lee Lewis could be bought. And they did some kind of co-promotion there in Nashville where they did a Jerry Lee concert and had matches. And Dory Funk Jr. was the NWA champion at that time. So he was in the main event. And will have to ask Scott Teal. They probably drew a heck of a crowd. But I think the reason for this picture is Dory Funk Jr. probably wanted to have his picture taken with Jerry Lee Lewis. And Nick probably did too. And of course, Nick is going, George, come in here, boy, get your picture of Jerry Lee Lewis. And Dory's match is over, so he's just wrestled. Jerry Lee has had time. His show was earlier. He's had time to change and dry off, but probably to get drunk, but he's still not wearing a shirt. And he's staring at Nick Goulas, probably because he's waiting to get paid so he can get the fuck out of there.
It's the happiest I've ever seen Dory Funk Jr. ever. I've never seen
he is smiling. My God, he's having a time of his life. And George is just dumbfounded, just like staring off into the camera. And that patch is as big as a title belt. And it's a wrestling patch, a guy with a headlock on the other guy. And it says pro wrestling at the bottom. Because Nick was like, so you're going to be a wrestling announcer. Go get you a patch on your jacket. Look official. He comes up with this fucking thing. It covers half his coat. But and see, we've talked about it. And my new book, Heroes and Friends, goes into a lot of history of wrestling in Nashville with the country music crossover with the wrestling personalities and the country music personalities. Were the only celebrities in Nashville for years before there was pro sports teams or whatever. And actually wrestling kind of predated the country music business since there was established wrestling and they were selling out the Hippodrome when it was just, the Grand Ole Opry was a radio show. There was no industry around country music at that point. And Jerry Jarrett lived next door to Bobby Bear in Hendersonville in the house that George Jones and Tammy Wynette had lived in when they were a couple, and Johnny Cash was across the lake. So there was always crossover. And Jerry Lee lived in Memphis or on the outskirts of Memphis for years and years. So it was a 3-hour drive and he did a lot of club dates and shit. But I've found out before we went on the air, when you told me about this picture, there's a story that you actually don't know and have not heard because I gave you the punchline. and you didn't laugh. And I realized you don't know this story. When Jerry Lee Lewis and Bill Dundee almost got in a fucking fight.
Yeah, I've never heard that story ever.
It was, the year was 1976 because this was when Dundee had come in the territory the year before as a heel, but now he was a baby face and he was starting to get his first push. He and Big Bad John were the Southern Tag Team Champions, and Plowboy Frazier had been Lawler's partner, but he had just turned on Lawler, and Lawler turned on him, whatever. Frazier is a baby face. And they're at a spot show around Memphis one Saturday night, and they come back in, or Friday night, they came back in to stay for television on Saturday morning. And there was a club down there called Hernando's Hideaway. I think it was, I don't know if it's in Memphis or if it's across the state line in Mississippi, but it's a suburb. And in the old days, Jerry Lee Lewis would go to this club whenever he wanted, and he'd just get up and play or sing or do whatever the fuck they wanted, and they let him, right? But Dundee and Frazier go in there, and there's nothing going on. And this was when Frazier thought he was a country singer. Remember, he actually cut a 45, an A side and a B side. They both were F sides with, remember the Memphis record producer, Jim Dickinson.
Yeah. He was the original Jelly Roll.
Yeah. You see, Frazier in those days, he had to flap his arms. You could tell whether he was rolling or walking. But anyway, so Frazier had done this record. He wanted to get up and sing, and there was nothing going on. So they let Frazier get up and sing. And Frazier said, and then Jerry Lee Lewis shows up with his entourage, bodyguard, stooges, whatever he traveled with in those days. He wants to get on the stage, but Frazier won't get off the fucking stage. He keeps singing it. Jerry Lee Lewis gets mad, and he's mad at the manager of the place or whatever. And they're telling Frazier, get off. And there's words, right? As Frazier gets off, Jerry Lee Lewis gets up there and says something about, well, now that the fake fucking wrestler's finished, or something like that. And there's Dundee, and he stands up. What do you mean fake, motherfucker? I guarantee you Dundee might have had a cocktail or two. What do you mean fake, motherfucker, in that accent? And now there's going to be a goddamn, there's Jerry Lee Lewis. Dundee obviously could fucking beat the shit out of Jerry Lee Lewis, but he has several people with him, and they're the ones that are supposed to do the fighting so Jerry Lee don't get sued. And there's fuck yous going on, and Dundee, as there's all squared off, Dundee turns next to him to look for Plowboy Frazier, right? 7 feet tall, 425 pounds, the biggest man in the goddamn room. He looks around and he sees elbows and shoe soles from Frazier going out the front door. What the fuck? And now it's Dundee and these fucking all these guys. And he's like, okay. And the manager's trying to calm it down. And Dundee just decides, well, I'll leave. So Dundee goes out the front door in the parking lot. There's Frazier in the parking lot. He said, Frazier, where the fuck were you? Oh, neighbor, I knew there was going to be trouble, so I went to get my knife. Anyway.
That is great.
So, but there was always a fun celebrity crossover in Memphis or in Nashville when it came to
Jerry Lee
the
Lewis,
musicians and the wrestlers.
There's a great book that was written about him by Nick Tosh. It's called Hellfire. If anyone gets a copy, it's a fantastically written book, and it's really entertaining. It begins with a true story, him driving over to Graceland to kill Elvis.
Yeah.
That's how it begins. And like the guy married his 13-year-old cousin, and that's not even like the worst shit that this guy's been involved with. And he was accused of like murder, and people think he may have murdered one of his wives, and they called him the Killer. That was his nickname. Imagine if you were accused of killing people and your nickname was the Killer and you embraced it. Hellfire by Nick Toshis. That's my book of the week.
Myra was his 13-year-old cousin.
That's right.
She was a meek, timid little thing. But yeah, it was during the period of time where one of his many wives died of suspicious circumstances that he was living, as I said, either in or right outside of Memphis in a posh location.
And Jimmy Swaggart is his cousin, too.
Yes, from Faraday, Louisiana. Jimmy Swaggart and Jerry Lee Lewis. They came from somehow the same bloodline. Anyhow, you know who is not going to be living in any posh accommodations, apparently, going forward? Poor Ridge Holland. You've been keeping up with this, Brian, but for the listeners' edification, Ridge Holland, the WWE talent, we've talked about him a couple times, but he apparently got hurt. Yeah, and when he was working on a TNA show against one of the TNA talents that was at Moose, I can't remember. But however he got hurt, the point is he's been out injured. The WWE has been paying for his rehab and paid for his medical care or whatever. But the story came out a week or two ago that they weren't going to renew his contract when it was coming up here in mid-November. And he managed to get them to, after his contract was already expiring, he sent out a tweet that pissed him off so bad they fired him 9 days early. So he gets 9 days less pay. This is a first, I think, that I can remember of this ever, isn't it?
What did he tweet out? Because again, I know a little bit about this story, but this wasn't
I got it right here. He tweeted out or wrote out or whatever the kids do on the interwebs, right? But this is the statement he made in public. I never thought I'd not be able to pay my mortgage. I feel like I've just been hung out to dry after getting injured working for another company on behalf of WWE. Add that to my contract not being renewed, knowing that I wouldn't be able to wrestle for 7 months. This is brutal. Yes, they are taking care of the surgery and physical therapy, but let's be honest. That's the bare minimum after what we sacrifice for the company. Plus the possibility of having to get my neck fused too. Talk about getting totally fucked. So that doesn't paint a pretty picture, does it?
No, that seems like someone ready for a lawsuit or something.
Well, he was, again, his contract was going to expire, I guess, on November 14th. But after he wrote that, they cut him as basically a breach of contract. Public complaining is a breach of contract now. I mean, I love all parts of this. It's so ridiculous.
Well, to be fair, what would you do if you, and again, it's a publicly traded company, so maybe it's not the same as just if you ran your own little business. But if one of your guys goes out there, you're paying him still. Like, you gave him the courtesy of saying you're not going to be coming back. Here's the window, and then it's over. And then he's just like, fuck this, fuck you.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. I'm not on anybody's side in this. I'm going to make fun of everybody. They cut him, so he got like 9 days less pay, right? So then, not only as he couldn't wait 9 days to make that statement till he got the last check, is what I'm saying. But here's another thing. Then they put out a GoFundMe for Ridge Holland. His real name is Luke Menzies, apparently. And would you like to hear the description on the GoFundMe?
Yeah, when you say they put up, you mean him? Like he put up his own GoFundMe? Or someone else?
Well, it wasn't, it's not a fake. It's, if it wasn't him, it's his family or authorized people. A GoFundMe was put out for the family. Let's put it that way. The description was: a loving father of 3 suffered injuries whilst on the job. Injuries that have not only left him unable to work, but also abandoned by the very company he served. Despite being injured at work, he was hired as a 1099 contractor, meaning he's not eligible for workers' compensation, sick leave, or any support from the employer. Since the injury, the company has offered to pay for medical expenses, but no pay, no new contract. The family has already endured a 55% pay cut last year and have done everything possible to reduce their expenses. He is now facing months of recovery, including another surgery in March of next year and potentially a neck surgery this month, leaving him unable to work until at least late April or early May if recovery goes as hoped. His wife, who is already stretched thin, caring for him and their 3 young children, is doing her best, but without any nearby family or support system, it's simply not enough. Every day is a struggle mentally and physically. They would like to provide a sense of stability for their children who are watching their world slowly unravel. They're doing everything they can, but it's not enough.
Jesus.
They're at risk of losing their home, of falling into debt they may never escape, of having their kids face a holiday season filled with fear and uncertainty rather than joy. There were $8,761 in donations at press time, of which it says $5,000, basically $1,000 each came from Jinder Mahal, Nick Jackson, Kyle Felcher, Chelsea Green, and Omos. Basically his friends, I guess. But here's the thing, Brian, is that for any situation, that might have been a little dramatic in the wording. But what Uncle Dave is reporting, and again, we take that with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it seems to be in line with what we have heard about the pay scale these days. He says if you figured that he was on a $350,000 to $500,000 contract last year, because he was on the full-time roster, and then the the WWE situation was they were going to cut him a year ago. But he asked to stay and work in NXT and would take the pay cut, stay in the system, and admirable of him. But if he went from 350 to 500 on the main roster and he got a 55% pay cut, he was making 157 to 225. He's been in the system. He has been probably better paid since he's been in that system for what, 7 or 8 years now, because he's the one that gave Big E the belly-to-belly suplex on the floor. I'm not blaming him. But that was, what, 5 years ago? However long.
That was when him and Butch were part of Sheamus's group, I believe.
Point is, he's been better paid than almost any professional wrestler, even of a top guy in the territories back in the day. And I know there's inflation, but he's had a stable job making into 6 figures for the past several years. Even if you're going to be out of work for 7 months, is it the point now to begin asking people to contribute to keep you from being homeless? How the fuck? I know that wrestlers are responsible for their travel expenses. That's brought up, and that's why the independent contractor thing is ridiculous and bullshit and all the things that we've talked about. But Jesus H. Christ on a cracker, how much money does one need to stay comfortable for a period of 6 months when you've been making hundreds of thousands of dollars? There's people out there launching GoFundMes for themselves because they make 40 grand a year and a kid got brain cancer or hit by a bus. Having said that, the WWE and TKO in general are a bunch of fucking assholes because they literally can print their own money. And because they have the Republican connections with the head crime family, they're going to make a fucking fortune from now till evermore. And they can't just tell this guy, you know what, we're not going to put you on contract because you're It ain't working out, dude. And, but since you're hurt and you got hurt in TNA and we told you to go there, we will give you X amount of dollars until you are able to get back in the ring so you can pay your expenses, and they'd never fucking notice it.
Well, I guess that's one of the questions. It's not even just letting him go and him having issues monetarily because that money is gone now. But the idea that he's being let go or now fired while injured, do you see that as an issue, whether it's this situation in WWE or anyone anywhere? The idea that you get hurt and they fire you while you're hurt?
Well, and see, that's again, Vince was at least enough in the wrestling business that unless you did something compound the issue, he wouldn't have made that decision. I know somebody's going to quote me chapter and verse. Well, he did it for so-and-so. Well, maybe they compounded the issue. I don't know. But no, when you had the capability to take care of somebody, you did. Even the boys might chip in back in the day, like we did for Magnum when he had the car wreck. But a company this size not being able to say, look, we don't want you to wrestle for us anymore. But right now, since you're hurt, instead of paying you your salary, we will pay you X dollars per month to more than cover your living expenses until you can get back in the ring and then be free. And they wouldn't miss it. They're assholes. And Ridge Holland, and I don't know if you can Google quickly how old he might be, but if he's got a wife and 3 kids and he's got to be in his mid-30s, one would think, and he was this close to disaster after making that kind of money while being in the fucking wrestling business, I don't know what said. Don't have a wife and 3 kids if you want to be a rock and roll star.
37 years old.
37 years old. Everybody is somewhat culpable in this catastrophe that's currently occurring. The WWE are assholes. They're actually not assholes for firing him 9 days early after he buried him like that before he could wait to get his last check. But they're assholes. And Republicans, same thing. And they are fucking the boys. And Jesus Christ, if he was 37 years old, he's been injured a number of times. They told him they were going to cut him last year, and he offered to take less money, which is still in the 6 figures. And he needs a GoFundMe before his fucking contract actually technically runs out. And he's almost 40. Did I mention that? And he's got 3 kids. Son, you should have had a backup plan. So I don't know what the fuck is going on. Again, there's been times when I would sympathize with the boys in situations, but not at this level when guys have had consistent jobs for years and years. There literally used to be situations where guys were, next week I'll be out on my ass unless I get booked or whatever. And probably still are on the indies today. But Jesus Christ, has everybody gone out of their fucking mind?
Well, good luck, formerly known as Ridge Holland.
Because
he ain't taking that name with him.
Yeah, he ain't going to be, well, but does he want to? You think he should? Do you think he really should take Ridge Holland? Because they'll remember him primarily as the guy who got fired 9 days early for cutting a promo on Twitter, and secondly for dropping Big E on his head. So maybe he should start fresh.
Should he tweet out positive things about Mother Teresa Tony Khan?
Boy, howdy. What would they do over there with him if, I don't know. I don't know what, but maybe he ought to go into real estate or something like that. He's got a pleasant smile. Or maybe he could go, he's got a big physique. He could go into bodybuilding, Brian.
I'm sure.
All he's got to do is change his diet up a little bit, eat better. We could help him with that. And then if he's got the right nutrition going into him, well, then he could pump up his body a little bit as he recovers from his injury, and he'd be right as rain. And when Vince wants to start the World Bodybuilding Federation again, boom, right there he is. You know how he's going to do that, Brian, with that diet?
How?
He's going to talk to our friends at Factor. That's how he's going to be doing that thing there.
Good deal. Because,
ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this right now. Factor is ready for the fall, because fall always feels like the reset time. Your hurry-scurry world, back to school, busier routine, shorter days. It gets dark only 3 hours after it gets light now. You've got a very short window. The vampires are running wild. So finding time to cook can be tough, and that's why we all love Factor, because they've got chef-prepped, dietitian-approved meals that make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious, no matter how hectic your season gets. The dietitian that approves it is secondary only to the chef that preps it, Brian, because now they've got more variety. The premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp, the GLP-1 friendly meals, the new Mediterranean diet options. For example, the cream of ocelot soup, the gecko flanks, and yak gravy. And for the first time, you can try Asian-inspired meals with bold flavor, influenced by China, Thailand, and more things in Asia. Why are you laughing? Those are all in Asia.
I'm just thinking how delicious that yak soup must be.
No, it's the ocelot soup. It's yak gravy. What's the matter with you? You can't make gravy out of... For heaven's sake. Folks, for more choices and better nutrition, 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. 3% were unavailable to comment because of the feeding tube, but still, they would feel the same way if they were conscious.
That 3% were not a part of the official statistics supplied by Factor. Delicious food.
No, we're trying to cover them up. They're not a part of anything official anymore. As a matter of fact, we paid the families.
Let me just say the last batch of food I got, part of that Protein Plus plan, was delicious. It was just amazingly good salmon. And I don't know why I'm yelling. And the chicken was great too. Sorry, Jace.
I'll tell you what, that's right. Whether it's yard bird, folks, or it's chicken of the sea, or whatever you want, Factor has it. And right now, you can not only eat smart, but you can save money. Because right now, if you eat smart at factormeals.com/JCE50 off, that's the code, folks, JCE50 off. You're going to get 50% off your first box and free breakfast for 1 year. That's code JCE50 off at factormeals.com. 50% off your first box, free breakfast for 1 year. Now, it depends on what you want to eat for breakfast. Now, we had some people saying, well, they wanted filet mignon and lobster for breakfast. That's not a normal breakfast food. You have to stick inside some kind of realm of reason. But you can get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. And once again, that offer only valid for new Factor customers with the code JCE50 off and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. They bring the food to your door. You pop it in the microwave. It's in a tray. So you don't even have to use a plate. I haven't washed dishes in fucking 3 weeks. Of course, some of the glasses are getting a little dingy.
Again, keep your kitchen clean. Make sure that your family's safe from all those germs, but good food is a big part of the equation. Good.
Well, you're not getting any germs from Factor.
No, you're not, but chef prepared and delicious food. That's the Factor way, Jim.
If you don't wash the inside of your oven and shit drips on it, that's not our fault. You know that could happen. I'll wash the top of the microwave because people don't normally bend over and look up, and you got all that gunk that rises to the top, and it could just heat up and drip right in your
Once
your
again,
super nuts or whatever, and then you poison yourself, and then you're dead.
Let's get away from that. That promo code.
Well, wash your microwave and go to Factor Meals.
There you go.
.com
for the living
/JCE50 off, 50% off your first box, the free breakfast for 1 year. No lobster.
All right. Well, let's this is your show. I don't know why I'm doing any kind of transition.
All right. Okay. Well, what I was going to do before you interrupted me, I want to take a look here before we talk about the television program that Tony did the other day. What is the talent in AEW? Where are the main event stars in the wrestling business, and what percentage is where? And I figured we'd look at AEW and look at WWE and see, because I know that Tony has some people that are hurt, but I'm afraid he's got a bunch of interchangeable parts that don't fit together coherently and no stars positioned to lead him. But do you think it would be a fun exercise if we just looked at these rosters that we looked at a couple months ago, and we picked who I potentially would keep and who I'd can? But I got all the names right here. I'm going to ask your input on this also, because I don't want to just exert my will. I'm getting my pad out here right now and everything. Jot down your thoughts. Let's just examine this talent roster and see where the stars are. What do you think?
Let's give it a shot. I mean, I'm pretty down on everything. I just watched Dynamite this morning. So, but yeah, let's give it a shot.
Well, we don't have to. I'm looking for main event level talent. Who could legitimately be in a main event that we care about, that can carry the ball? We don't have to sit here and analyze every name, and we're going to stick with guys on both companies. I'm not even going to get into philosophical discussions, but I think it's safe to say that, there's no women in AEW that are going to just carry a big money main event on a pay-per-view in the immediate future. So we're not losing anything here on that. But would you like to let me just rattle off some names and see if you stop me and or disagree with anything I say? On the AEW roster, Bobby Lashley, one would agree he's a main event guy. He's a former WWE champion. The people like the Hurt Syndicate. He's got credibility. Used properly, one would think he could be in the main events, correct?
Correct. Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say correct, but, damage has been done. But I actually think Bobby Lashley could still recover pretty quickly with a good push.
And also, when who could be a main event talent, we're not going to ask the question for in each company, but who could be a main event talent in both companies? Because there's something to be said for that. But after Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin. And I think maybe Shelton is the cutoff point for, at this stage in his career, we're talking about main event guys that are going to move something on pay-per-view, that could be the world champion, could be featured. I think, is Shelton the Arn Anderson line here?
So we're not talking about just wrestlers you would keep. We're talking about wrestlers you kept who could be main eventers.
We're talking about who deserves on the AEW roster, who deserves to be main event wrestlers in a major national wrestling company.
Realistically, I think Shelton Benjamin in tag action, no matter who his partner is, but one-on-one, I think too much damage has been done long-term by booking in other places, and even here, but really other places.
Right.
I personally don't, and I'm a fan of his.
There you go. And I agree. But Samoa Joe, right now, he is in the main event here. And from his performance, both verbally and physically, if any of these goofy bastards should be in contention for the AEW World Championship, it should be him. But the Hobbs ain't there yet. No. Might be one day, not right now. Anthony Bowens, A.R. Fox, Austin Gunn, Colton got stop me when I mention a name we might discuss for this list. Bandito, Big Bill, Brody King, Buddy Matthews. Oh, where's Buddy gone? Cash Wheeler, tag team only. Claudio, Darby Allin. Oh,
You know what?
Jesus Christ.
I think Darby, not that I agree with a lot of shit, but in his own way, he's a unique character that is a main eventer for AEW.
I'm writing him down.
Yeah.
Dax Wheeler, Dustin Rhodes.
You mean Dax Harwood?
Or Dax Harwood. I had Cash and Dax Harwood. Jesus Christ. Whatever the case. Dustin Rhodes, Hook, Jay Lethal. Has he been abducted by ICE agents? Where the fuck has he been? Jay White, probably the same place. Juice Robinson, John Morrison, Josh Alexander, Kevin Knight, Takeshita.
Ooh, I'm going to do that because I think the timing may work. He hasn't proven it yet. He hasn't been it yet here in America. And where he is in the main events in New Japan, I mean, business is dead. Not that it's his fault. But is he a main eventer yet? I mean, he hasn't been totally screwed up by the booking, but he also hasn't been in the main event.
He's an interesting case because he's never going to be able to cut a promo, so he's never going to be the guy. But at the same time, with proper usage, he could be a viable... Boy, if Gary Hart was around. But nevertheless, we'll put him down. Kyle Felcher.
I feel like that's a universal thing now that everyone sees. And he stands out on that show. He stands out in the way that you're like, when is he going to go to WWE?
Yeah, please hurry. Kyle O'Reilly. There's some people here now that that I would not have kept, that I'll go down that list also, because John Moxley.
Ooh, that's
boy, howdy.
Just one honk there.
Yeah.
Again, I hate his work. I hate clearly his booking instincts. I hate the things that he really likes and wants to get on TV. However, he is a main eventer, and you can't say he isn't. So, like, I'm pinching my nose, but I think I have to, maybe. What do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's in that spot. Name recognition might be his strongest point. Kenny Omega.
He may not have much time left, but for AEW, he's still a main eventer. Yeah. So he's still one of the people that means something, I think, to their fans, even at this late stage.
Shapoopy. Okay, here's one. Is this a main event guy? Is this a guy that you can put in main events on big shows that will draw money and or have a great match, as they say? Okada.
I'm not going to do it. No.
The geese ain't flying, baby. I mean, it just, no. Sorry, whatever that they're fans of that they still see that's gone now. All right, then some more names. Solo, they're Solo. What was Aaron Solo? Action Andretti. Alex Abrahantes. Where is he gone?
Oh, yeah, whatever happened to him? He was good.
Yeah. Alex Reynolds. Angelo Parker. Anthony Agogo. Adam Page. Whew. They've tried to make it happen, but can you say he's really a main event guy?
You know, I hate his promos so much. Every time he gets on the mic now, I watch intently to see if he'll say anything. I'm like, all right, he did all right. But every time it just goes into nonsense. They like him. There are also fewer of them than there have been. I remember when CM Punk and MJF were having their feud. Dave Meltzer said the credit for the pay-per-view should have gone to Adam Page and Adam Cole having their match. My point is he's been in their main event picture. Their fans like him. Things are also not as hot now as they've been in the past. I personally don't see him as a main eventer. That's why I'm not honking, but to each their own.
Let's put him down with 2 question marks for later on. They might need some help on this side when we compare the rosters. Brandon Cutler, Brian Cage, Brian Danielson doesn't count anymore. Brian Keith, Charlie Bravo, Chris Jericho.
I'm going to give it a little bit of one just because since he's been gone from AEW, they have less star power than they did before. And he's going to want to do something different if he did come back. He may be able to get another main event run, especially with this roster. And with WWE, I don't think he'll rest in the main event, but I think he'll get a few main events and then be upper mid-card into some kind of feud with someone you nominally care about.
I don't know if he would even be that regular. I think the WWE would say, hey, we want to do a couple of big shows. We want to do a little, live event tour or whatever. We want to do the Hall of Fame thing. Nevertheless, let's put Jericho 1 question mark. Christian Cage. Chuck Taylor. Colt Cabana. Shut up.
I'm fucking with you. No, I'm fucking with you.
Edge. Anyone?
No.
What?
For me, no.
For name I'm just trying to put somebody on this poor beleaguered, depleted army. For name recognition and what he has been in the past, you could do it better than. Hey, okay.
They did the hottest angle they've done with him, and they really haven't done much with him, and the angle wasn't even that great. And then as soon as it happens, he disappears off TV. So, I mean, I don't think anyone's really said anything. No one's like, I really miss the Cope being on the show. This isn't 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's now, and I don't think he's a main eventer now.
Danhausen, Danny Garcia, Dante Martin, Darius Martin, Dralistico, Eddie Kingston, Evil Uno, Griff Garrison, Hologram, I don't want you. Hologram, I don't need you, 'cause all you are is a hologram. Somebody named Cassidy, Jack Perry, John Silver, Josh Woods, Keith Lee. We did this a few months ago. Luchasaurus. Is he just the people like to see him do some things, but you can never put him in a money deal? Or is it just because they've never tried? He's not very smart, but you could stick him in something with and have people work around him, couldn't you? But not in a main event. He can't talk for himself. If he does, he sounds like a putz. Pip Sabian, Commander, Kota Ibushi, Lee Johnson, Lee Moriarty, Luther, Mansoor and Mansway, Mark Sterling, Mike Seidel, Matt Jackson, the Buckaroo. And somebody's going, the Bucks could be in a main event. Yeah, that's why we're in this position, folks. Max Caster, Michael Nakazawa, Spitball Bailey. Shut up. Nick Jackson, the other Cucamonga kid. Comorado, if he still exists. Nick Wayne, where has he gone? Also, his mother, where have they gone?
I forgot about all of them, yeah.
Pockets, Ortiz. We went through the roster that was listed at the time. Pretty Peter, Preston Vance, Ricochet, Rush, Satnam Singh, Serpentico, Shane Taylor, Sean Dean, Rigor Mortis, Tia Leone, Bishop Khan, Tony Nese, the Magnum people, Turbo Magnum and Floyd Smoot, whatever their names were, Trent, Wheeler Yuta, Lance Archer, Leo Rush, Mark Briscoe. He's in the same kind of boat as Shelton. Mark Davis, Mark Quinn, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, MJF.
Yeah, he's a main eventer.
Just somewhere else, unfortunately. I think it's gone as the train has reached the end of the line at AEW, but he has the talent. Pac, Roderick Strong, Sammy Guevara, Scorpio Sky, Wardlow, and lastly, two people, Swerve Strickland.
You know, I'm going to honk the horn for him.
And Will Ospreay.
And I'll honk the horn for him. And
and
they're both injured.
Yes, but they still exist, so we'll write them down. So what we have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we have 10 main event guys where one of them is take a shit, and that's only with a drastic change in presentation. One of them is Kyle, where he's still really growing into it. One of them is Moxley, where we had to hold our nose. One of them is Omega, that has a few matches left in him, maybe. And then we have 3 question marks: Adam Page, Chris Jericho, and Edge.
You know what? I'll put Adam Page on the list. For AEW, he's one of their main eventers. Absolutely.
All right.
Now that I hear the list being read back to me, also I feel bad that...
Yeah, you see, at the time we talked about him, you thought it might get better.
Yeah, it didn't.
So that is what they've got to work with when you're talking about putting together a pay-per-view or major event, main event match, world title on the line, whatever no wonder he's hit the fucking wall. And these other names are just a bunch of fucking names. And most of them are either never seen or have been there forever.
Where is he supposed to get anyone?
Well,
sure, you can get a Ridge Holland, but that's not a game changer right now. You would actually have to rebook him and start from scratch, using him as an example for everyone. Where are you going to get anyone right now?
That's the point that I've also been making. He's bought the cupboard bear from Mexico and Japan, and not only that, but he brings in so many of similar styled, similar appearing, similar working guys from each market that none of them stand out in a positive way. Okada stands out to me with how lazy he is, but none of them stand out because you got 4 or 5 guys at the same time doing the same shit. He couldn't book to begin with, and now he's tired and his roster is depleted. But think about it, this is November 2025. When did they debut on the air? Fall of 2019, right?
Yeah, I think maybe October 2019, September, October. Yeah.
So it was springtime 2018. First time I talked to Tony Khan when he uttered the immortal words, "Nobody will ever write my TV except me." And that is 7.5 years ago. And the prophecy has come true. And the tree is bearing the fruit. Even goddamn Leo Garibaldi, for fuck's sake, I'm ribbing, but an Eddie Graham or a Bill Watts or any great booker, whatever, they took a break, they took a rest, they had runs in the middle. I can personally testify that I was more fanatical, at least, if not smarter, more fanatical about it than all of those people I just mentioned. And it will make you insane in much less than 7 fucking years. So,
do you think he said that to you to impress you? Like, it wasn't.
No, he was dead serious, because he was telling me, without violating any NDAs. Is there a statute of limitations on those? I printed that out the other month when I was going through the files. I forgot what the date is.
Coming to Cornette's Collectibles, signed NDAs very soon.
You know what? I will, if I can figure out an appropriate charity. But nevertheless, what was the question you asked me? Now you've blanked. Oh, did he say it seriously? He was telling me, I was asking a couple of questions about, well, how do you plan to do this or that or whatever? But he was telling me the people that he thought he could get to work on the roster that he either already planned to or that he would like to have come in. And I said, well, most important, who are you going to get to book this thing for you? Again, not fishing for the job, but trying to establish where this fucking... I'm told to call a billionaire that I've never heard of who's going to start a wrestling company. And he's telling me all these things he's going to do. And the first thing I want to know is, who's going to do all these things for you? And that's when I found out that he thought he could do them all himself. And that's when I immediately knew what was going on here and have never been proven wrong, which is why I chose to not involve my mental strain anymore in indulging him. But he wanted to call everybody in the wrestling business and tell them all how great his ideas were and how excited he was about running Vince McMahon out of business and having the greatest wrestling company in the world. And you cannot reason with somebody like that, except if you want their money, you agree with them and they give you a job. If you want to talk them out of it because you live in the real world, it will drive you out of your fucking mind. And here we are. Yeah. And he's still writing the television. It's like if I told somebody on the phone, you know what, this goddamn irregular heartbeat I've got, I'm going to need surgery, but nobody's going to do my open heart surgery but me. What the fuck is the matter with you? Why would I do have a high opinion of my intellect, Brian, but why would I just go into some goddamn field that I've only watched on television, that I have absolutely no experience in whatsoever, and just think I was going to run the best fucking company of that thing in the world?
The arrogance of modern fandom, especially with wrestling, leads people to think that they could do everything better than everyone else. I'm guilty of it. Everyone is. Tony just had the money to say, hey, Dad, let me do this. And he did.
Yeah, to do more than think, right? But you know, Brian, sometimes you need to change lines of work. Sometimes maybe something might not work out, like the Ridge Holland thing, or like sooner or later, somebody's going to have to sit down with Tony and say, you just can't do this anymore. And you know he's not going to be able to sit around and just count his billions in his Scrooge McDuck money bin. He's going to have to do something else. But if he comes up with an idea, how's he going to get that word out to the people without another television show? He ain't going to get that lucky twice. He's going to have to go to somebody with a big platform, isn't he?
He is.
Yes, that's where you're supposed to agree with me. A big platform. And do you know who's got the biggest, the longest, the girthiest, the thickest and the throbbingest platform in all of e-commerce today, Brian?
Who's that, Jim?
Shopify. Cha-ching. That's exactly right. That's what you're going to hear every time that Shopify's big, throbbing, just massive, girthy e-commerce platform makes a sale. Then you're going to hear that sound because that's money going into your bank account. Ladies and gentlemen, with Shopify, you can get started with your own design studio. They got you covered. Accelerate your content creation. You know, you can do this from scratch with the Shopify people behind you because they've done all this before. Household names like Mattel. They're the commerce platform behind 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States. So they got their hand in everybody's pocket. And if they're picking pockets, they might as well pick pockets for you. You know that purple Shop Pay button?
They don't pick pockets. Well, I know that button, yes.
Yes, you know that button. Every time somebody presses it, that means somebody gets paid. Well, that somebody can be you. You just sign up with Shopify and you get one of those little cards that lets you into the Shopify headquarters. And then late at night, when nobody's around, you go in there and you reconfigure the patch cords to where every time somebody pushes that pay button, you get paid. And in 12 hours before they figure out what you've done, you'll have $38 million and you will live on your own deserted island in the South Pacific.
That is not what's going to happen. And that's
with
not
hookers
a great
directly from Andrew Mountbatten Smithington.
Listen, he's using the hookers. They didn't say he was actually sharing them. But Jim, let's get back to the reality of the situation. And of course, the seriousness of business and commerce. You need someone you can trust on your side. And
it is serious.
And we know that you can trust, not silly, but serious. We know that you can trust the good people at Shopify, because we do. ArcadianVanguard.com, drive-through shirts, more to come. But we trust them. That means you can too.
And that iconic purple Shop Pay button does show a little bit of whimsy. It would just be plain old standard black if they didn't have a little whimsy to them, but they're not all the way into silly, just whimsy. But once again, you're wanting people to finger your purple button, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what that Shopify is going to make them do. So turn your dreams into reality. Turn your fantasies into something that's actually going on around you. Shopify can find all the people and the Dalmatian to make that a reality.
There's no Dalmatian. There's no Dalmatian at all. And let's not use this example, Jim, of course.
If you would like to see less of your carts being abandoned, because a cart is a terrible thing to waste. It's time for you to head over to Shopify today. Right now, sign up for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today right out of that same shopping cart at Shopify.com/JCE. That's how you get the $1 a month trial period. Shopify.com/JCE. Boy, I'll tell you what, talk about a shopping cart. You're going to be cruising down the highway in a brand new car with all the proceeds from what you're going to, it's going to be a business, kind of like Frank Morrell used to say. He used to say, I went to the Kansas City territory. I drove in a $20,000 Lincoln Continental, and I left on a $60,000 Greyhound bus. It's going to be just like that for you. You're going to trade up in the world, folks, with Shopify.com/JCE.
That's right. All kidding aside, we do use them for our online store. We recommend you could do that as well. In English, but once again, Shopify.com/JCE. Lady!
You made me swallow down the wrong way. All righty. Well, should we... Now, real quickly, because we did it to AEW, so we want to be fair and do it to the WWE. Should we just go down that list real quick and see how many main event talents they got, and then we'll see where we're standing.
And this was as of a couple months ago, so there may be... I mean, I don't know who. I'm trying to think, were there any additions to the roster? Yeah, not really.
Nobody has really come in and just tickled our taint here recently, have they? That we're just forgetting about the brand new great talent. Let's go down this list and see what's happened. The first one we would keep, but we're not going to keep him because it wouldn't technically be fair. John Cena, he's retired, so we can't even give them credit for him, right? So we're gonna not do that.
Get out.
Get out. Gunther. Boom. Not even any discussion required.
No, nothing needed.
Dominic Mysterio.
I'm putting him
Hold
down.
on now. Hold
I'm putting
on.
him down. I'll put him down.
I'm going to have to put him with a question mark only because it's not yet, but it's going to be. But now we can't be too liberal because we weren't really stingy on the other side. We were just disappointed. But nevertheless, Solo Sikoa, Chad Gable, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Montez Ford, Oba Femi, Adam Pearce. I ought to put him down. He can probably outwork half the roster still. No, I'm kidding.
That man's a former world champion.
Well, yeah, but everybody gets older. He's only half the man he used to be because he was twice the man that most people were when he was half the man you used to be. And that's Steiner math. AJ Styles. Ooh.
You know what?
He's right on it there.
Yeah, notwithstanding the John Cena match, I kind of feel like he's a notch below right now. Not that he wouldn't have been, not that I wouldn't have done that for him a couple of years ago. Yeah.
And he's announced he's retiring, so he's not really going to be, concentrated on a prominent position with the thought of the future. Alex Shelley, Apollo Crews, Austin Theory. Boy, howdy, he ain't there, but I still don't know what's the matter with this fucking guy.
It's like he never existed. He just disappeared. Everyone forgot about him.
And the movement, I would have killed to have 10 OVW students like that. Nevertheless, Brock Lesnar. Yeah, he's a little slower than he used to be, but still. Daryl Dawkins, Hank Walker.
Daryl Dawkins.
Angelo Dawkins. I call him Daryl. Hank Walker, Tank, Stacks. The fuck? At least people have heard of Daryl Dawkins.
I don't even know what you're saying.
Well, no, I thought you were laughing. These are names of people. Stacks, Tony D'Angelo, Luca Persephone, Tozawa, Alistair Black, Andre Chase, Angel Garza, Axiom. See, we went through all of I'm reading these names because we mixed the girls in on these too, and it wouldn't be fair. Okay, Braun Breaker. Jesus, finally. Braun Breaker, we got Bronson Reed.
I'm giving him this because of the way he's been used, and it's working.
Okay.
And he's part of a package.
In a tag at this point, but it's working. Brooks Jensen, Chris Sabin, CM Punk.
What the hell's wrong with this horn?
Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Dexter Lumis, Drew McIntyre. Ow, that hurt me. Eric of the Raiders, Ivar of the Raiders, Paul Revere of the Raiders, Ilya Dragunov. Not yet.
Yeah.
Jacob Fatu. Oh, give it a honk there.
I like it. Has he been used as a main eventer?
He's gonna be if he'll ever get his teeth put back in.
I think he'll get a horn next year, but I don't know if he has it this year.
Well, I'm making him horny. Javon Evans, not now.
Right.
Jey Uso, not anymore.
You know
not
what?
anymore.
I'm gonna. He's still.
All right.
He still has some draw left. Not that I think it's gonna last too much longer. Not that I like it.
Not fair to mention him now, Kevin Owens, but he gets a bye anyway. LA Knight.
I'd like him to be, but
you know who's disappeared? The Creed brothers. Maybe it's because that big-assed one kept landing on everybody's face. Carmelo Hayes, Charlie Dempsey, Cruz del Toro, Cutler James. They had the whole roster down. Dante Chin, Dion Lennox, Dragon Lee, Idris Enough, Elton Prince, Eric Rowan, Grayson Waller, Joaquin, whatever the fuck, Joe Gacy, Johnny Gargano, Josh Briggs, Kofi Kingston, Lexus King, Logan Paul. Got it. Ludwig Kaiser, Nick Aldis, Kit Wilson. I wrote down Luca Damfino. I couldn't figure out what the...
Obviously, that one wasn't a serious hunk.
A lot of these, I can't tell whether they're the men or the women's talent. Mike Rome, Robert Stone, Miles Bourne, Nathan Frazier, Omos. Good God, there's more. Paul Heyman doesn't technically count, but they couldn't do it without him. Randy Orton.
I think I think he still has a big thing with Cody that's on the table. Oh
God, yeah.
So
yeah. That's gonna might that be Mania? Nevertheless, Rey Mysterio. Not at this point in his career. Right. At one time.
Yeah.
Ray Phoenix, Ricky Saints, not yet. Ridge Holland, barely not ever. Robert Roode, Roman Reigns. Yeah. Boom. Rusev, Sami Zayn. He's on the cusp. He's there. Yeah, he's like that. Seth Rollins. And he's Wells. Yep. Boom. Tama Tonga, The Miz, Tommaso Ciampa, Tonga Loa, Taller Tonga, Trick Williams, Xavier Woods, Otis, Pete Dunne, Escobar, Sean Spears, Sheamus. Yeah, not at this point. He used to be. Who the fuck is, I don't even know who the fuck, Stevie Turner. Is that a girl or a guy? I don't know. Tony D'Angelo, Tyler Bate, then Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, whatever the fuck. Yeah, I don't even recognize these names. So the WWE numerically only has one. It don't have any really question marks in it, but it's only got 14 to AEW's 13. But WWE's 14 beats the fucking shit out of AEW's 13. Listen to this. If you were opening a wrestling promotion, would you rather have Bobby Lashley, Samoa Joe, Darby Allin, Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, Chris Jericho, Edge, MJF, Swerve Strickland, and Will Ospreay? Or Gunther, Dominic Mysterio, Brock Lesnar, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Jacob Fatu, Jey Uso, Logan Paul, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, and Seth fucking Rollins with Paul Heyman?
Yeah, there's no contest.
Jesus Christ.
It's two different playing fields. And again, you go back to that photo that was out there after Punk won the title of him with Jade, with Cody, with Ricky Saints. You know, Ricky Saints may not be a main eventer now. He could have been in AEW by now. They blew that. CM Punk and Cody were main eventers there. They blew that. You know, it's not like the talent that are on top here had to be here. It could have been maintained over there if there was different leadership.
You know, hold on here. So there's no way. How long has Gunther been in the system? He's been with developmental since longer than AEW's been around, right?
It's got to be about 5 years, 6 years, somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay, so Dominic was grandfathered in because of his father. Brock Lesnar there was no chance Tony was ever going to get. Braun Breaker in because of his dad. Bronson Reed was a thing that was out there, I think, before that Tony could have had.
Oh, yeah, because they let him go, too. Remember, there was a period in between him being there. They let him go.
Oh, Christ, that's right.
Yeah.
Tony had Punk. Tony had Cody. Drew's been tied up. Jacob Fatu was more than available. And from California. For some reason, the Cucamonga kids didn't embrace him as part of their trampoline gang. Jey Uso's been in the system. Logan Paul wasn't going to work for Tony. Randy Orton's been in the system. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. So Tony couldn't have got most of these guys, but he did have Cody and Punk and could have had a couple of others. But at the same time, before the WWE got these guys, they weren't exactly notorious in the world of wrestling. Gunther was not a national star before WWE. Definitely Dominic wasn't. Brock was a celebrity athlete because of the NCAA, but Braun Breaker they took from scratch. Bronson Reed, they've developed. All these guys really gained their first fame with the WWE that are in WWE now. In AEW, Lashley gained his greatest fame in WWE. Samoa Joe has been to the WWE, but really was a talent beforehand, was TNA. Darby is homegrown. Takeshita, the jury's still out. Kyle's the jury's still out. Moxley was much more famous in the WWE. Omega, okay, is homegrown. Page, for what? That patch of ground was sour. Jericho, WWE. Edge, WWE. MJF, homegrown. Swerve was in the WWE, but not focused on as much as they have here. And Osprey, they grew him, but he was already over to the audience for what he'd done before he joined the company. So they don't have a great record in AEW of taking people that have never been seen on a widespread level and getting them over, do they? Imagine that.
No, and you look at the people they focus their time on, and you're always like, why? Why haven't you given up on this and found someone else yet?
Do you think Tony hates to admit he's wrong because he didn't have to tell the butler that he was guilty of things when he was a kid?
I think that may be part of the reason. I think Tony also has an echo chamber. There's certain people Tony talks to that reaffirm his worst instincts as a booker. But hey, it's his project. I mean, it just so happens that it's also a business. It's the Tony Fun Project. That's what it is. That's what it always will be. But, you know, it comes back to the same issue. Of the people you name for AEW, Chris Jericho may or may not be back, but he's not a young guy anymore. Kenny Omega, we've said that they have to hide him in tag matches, and it looks like it's hurting him just to walk around. His head looks like Huggle from Labyrinth.
Edge doesn't have a, long and bright career ahead of him, nor does he want one, I don't think, at this point.
You got to think he's winding down. Moxley, he's, around 40, and he's one of the young ones of all that bunch. But who knows how much longer he's going to be doing this stuff. Darby's, younger, but There's always a risk he's going to snap in half or something.
Almost everybody on that side is either over the hill or held together with baling wire.
And then you have MJF, who you would have to think, unless Tony Khan's going to open the books and pay him more than anyone else, you got to think MJF would want to go to WWE. Kyle Fletcher, I would think the same thing. He seems to take his career seriously. Do you think he wants to work for Tony forever? So those are the younger guys on that list of the main eventers. You know, Ospreay, he's not that old, but by the time he's a free agent, is he going to be able to do anything in WWE? Or is his body going to be broken down? Because it's broken down now. So
I think that's why he took the money rather than the opportunity to. And I sound like a Vince offering a job now. We're going to give you the opportunity instead of a guarantee. But I think he took the money from Tony and the chance to please the fans that were already predisposed to like him, because he knew that not only could he not physically probably go into WWE and get over from complete scratch. None of those fans would have a fucking clue who he was. And he'd have to do all the shit that he did 5 and 10 years ago to get over to begin with again, and he can't. And then there would be a ceiling because he's still got the accent and he's, just kind of a certain level guy that would never be the guy in the WWE. So I think that's why he did this, and that way, and he can take that long flight in business class or whatever every week.
Well, that's the roster review for WWE.
One side is Custer and one side's the Indians. All right, well, now that we've talked about the disparity in talent, let's talk about the disparity in booking that was AEW. What was this week? November 5th? AEW Dynamite
yes.
Wednesday night?
I believe so.
If it had been Tuesday, I would say the loud sound that you heard was not the plane crash in Louisville. It was Tony Khan hitting the wall in Houston. But Jesus, they open up with Tony Schiavone in the ring. And of course, he pulled the costume deal with Paige and Samoa Joe last week. And we said, well, Joe ought to be mad at Tony. So here comes Joe and Hobbs and Shapoopy. And guess what? Joe's mad at Tony for helping the old switcheroo last week. But Joe is so good. The ominous tone, the delivery, the arrogance of his voice when he's being a heel. Consequences, actions have consequences, Tony, and consequences have come for you. He's a diamond in the middle of this turd. But still, he's the guy that's just turned heel on the world champion and is challenging at the next pay-per-view for the title again, after the babyface champion beat him clean the first time. But nevertheless, he's still, I understand, again, having Hobbs, because Hobbs is a project that you could mold still. But with the 6-man title thing and Shibata's there for no reason, and then they have the fake security come in, acting fakely, trying to keep Joe from killing Tony Schiavone. Why not teach these guys? Why not walk through it with them and say, don't act like idiots with your waving your arms in the air with your slack-jawed expressions. No. Act like you're... So then here comes Paige when they all start to attack. And by the way, now Paige has old Sockface on commentary calling it the men's world title. Like we couldn't differentiate with Paige as champion. He might be right.
Danielson did it too.
Well, of course, because they're Paige's buddies, and this is a thing that Paige is doing, I guess, to reinforce that he is indeed male. At some point, they're going to start calling it a human world title. So Paige comes out there, but the heels are still ready to attack. But here comes Eddie Kingston and Hook. This is the world title program. What I said about Shibata goes double for Hook and Kingston. And then the heels bailed out for mid-carders coming to back Paige up. Paige cuts the same promo, growly voice, and then Hook takes the microphone and challenges him for a 6-man tag team title match later on in the show. And Joe, this made Joe mad. And he channeled Ric Flair and agreed to it. And Tony Khan made it official in 5 seconds. So this is the way they're building the world title match. And I comments, thoughts, suggestions, recipes?
Yeah, I mean, again, the commentators were dancing around what was clearly Adam Page working with Tony Schiavone, collusion, to trick Samoa Joe last week. Because how would they have Tony Schiavone's voice?
Yeah.
Ready to go? Beyond that small little fact. Yeah, I mean, it was all right, I guess. I'm sick of Adam Page. I know I may be amongst AEW watchers. Amongst AEW viewers, I'll say
not
like
many
that.
of those AEW folks are washers.
I swear to God, every week now someone sends a photo of like, here's some AEW fan busted for some nefarious thing, and you always know it's an AEW fan because they're wearing the AEW jacket or something. But yeah, I just thought that was the thing that's ridiculous. The fact that in this whole world of this angle, Tony Schiavone was in cahoots, and he got off easy.
Well, we all like to get off easy. But anyway, so after they started with this segment, the first match on the program, here comes Pockets. Every week now that he's back from whatever rock that he was hiding under, it's the first thing you see. How is anybody supposed to take this program seriously? That's a rhetorical question. And it's a blood and guts advantage match. Not just the only one, they're going to have 2 out of 3. Actually, they're going to have 3. And it goes into Collision too. And now they're doing blood and guts with the women on TV and then the men on TV. But then the pay-per-view is different than the blood and guts. Is this what help me try to keep all this straight?
I believe Blood and Guts is exclusive to Dynamite. The pay-per-view will be Full Gear. The big thing we know right now is it'll be the national title determined in the Casino something. But I don't think there's War Games. I don't think there's a War Games there, though.
Pockets and Claudio. Well, Blood and Guts is War Games without the cage and the talent. Pockets and Claudio, the match starts on the floor before the bell with Pockets doing 2 dives in a row. So with entrances, this went over 15 minutes, and then the random Walmart stock boy was competitive the whole way with the Giant until finally Claudio won with a big uppercut, 1, 2, 3. And then we go to the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament, because while we are having the advantage matches for the Blood and Guts, we are having the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament, which will run at least 2 and possibly past the conclusion of the new national championship that will be decided by a Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal. Right?
I don't know when it ends, actually. Maybe, yeah.
Mercedes Moon and Athena against Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron. And after about 15 minutes, the baby faces won. They upset Mercedes Moon and Athena. Of course, they beat Athena. And Billy Starks, that girl, is back, and Statlander was running around interfering and la la la. But that's to get Mercedes out of the tournament so she doesn't have to do any jobs, because she ain't going to. And Brian, we were at 9 o'clock. I'm not shitting you. That's the first hour, was the 6-man setup, Claudio and Pockets, and a girls' tag team match. And that's when Tony Schiavone was back in the ring to announce the Casino Gauntlet match that will take place at the pay-per-view, with the winner being the new national champion, because it's been 40 years since the national title was on this network. And we covered earlier in the program the various reasons why this whole thing is stupid. But at that point, Tony introduces the Hurt Syndicate. And they come out, and the only interesting thing that they had to do in this segment was potentially raise the question of what would happen if Shelton had to face Bobby. And all MVP said they'll do what's best for business. And then the music played, and Ricochet and the fucking Stooges came out. And MVP had already called it the international title, because they can't even keep them all straight. And they had him plug Paul Orndorff, Jack Briscoe, Dusty Rhodes, Wahoo, Nikita as the former champions. And because they just Wikipedia'd that, Briscoe actually was never, they just put the thing on Briscoe for him to drop it to somebody at the start of it in the early 80s. But nevertheless, then Ricochet and his Stooges come out wearing the suits and the ugly robes, and the fans are hoot-booing him. Where they're not listening, they're either just booing over him because it's fun, because they don't give a shit, or they're chanting "shut the fuck up." But it's not like that this is any type of money-drawing heat. It's let's amuse ourselves by just shouting his putts down heat. Do you think they can tell the difference over there?
No.
And he talks like an indie guy as well as working like one. And he's the talent on this team. I think he was better off in the WWE, where he could be hidden. They had him do his fancy shit. He didn't get to talk very much, because the more that you listen to him and learn of what is apparently his real personality, the more that even the AEW fans genuinely just don't fucking like him. And MVP cut him off at the end when he was droning on and fired up and got the fans back into it a little bit, but nobody cares about these heels. So I don't want Lashley and Benjamin to face each other in the tournament, because that would hurt their image, but I would like more of the tease that they might, because at least it'd be something different, instead of more with these fucking clowns. Help me.
Now, this was the worst I've ever seen or heard Ricochet on the microphone. You know, FTR, I think some of the booing with them is just based on the way they've been booked for a while and people don't want to hear them anymore. Maybe some of Dax. But with Ricochet, just listen to him. Like, you can't take him seriously. And I thought it became a bit much at the end. The intrigue, like you said, was the idea, what happens if Bobby wrestles Shelton?
Well, maybe they'll tell us next week more about it. But you know, at this point, Brian, in the show, like I said, we're past 9 o'clock, and I'm starting to get sleepy. But not even because of the bad programming, but because I, like a good little boy, every night before I lay my weary head down to sleep, I get down at the foot of the bed and I say my prayers, and then I take my CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp, and that helps me sleep like a baby. Because CBD gummies are better for your physical and mental wellness than if you don't take them, because then you're just, well, fuck, you're leaving yourself open to just random chance, aren't you? Brian, I know every night, before you lay your weary head down on your desk there where you sleep, because you're at work 24 hours a day, you take your CBD gummies, and that hard desk feels like a soft pillow.
I don't sleep on my desk, not even at my desk, but I can tell you that Suzanne, she is a big fan of the CBD gummies. She said she gets a good night's sleep every time she ingests one, chews one, whatever you want to say here. But they are also delicious.
Well, and you don't actually inject them or anything, and they're not
I didn't
suppositories. Now,
say
at
that.
first there was
That's
some.
not what I said.
Oh, you said ingest, not inject, but
ingest.
there was some confusion at first with some people. They are not suppositories. Now, some people had to find this out the hard way, but many other people know you just eat them like a gummy. But here's the thing: the cornbread hemp gummies or any other cornbread hemp products at cornbreadhemp.com, made right here in Louisville, Kentucky. We're all in a heap of shit here coming up soon if Mitch McConnell and the rest of these assholes in Congress get their way. So stock up while you can, because Mitch McConnell is trying to have all hemp products declared illegal, which would put thousands of people out of work in his home state and make people even more miserable than they already are living in today's society. And that's what Mitch McConnell lives off of. How do you think he's lasted this long? Instead of taking blood from virgins, he takes misery from everybody. So if we can keep Mitch McConnell from possibly feeding on our misery, then we can keep our cornbread hemp. So write your congressman, ladies and gentlemen. And in the meantime, head over to cornbreadhemp.com/JCE and use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to save 30% off your first order. And everybody ought to be stocking up on these things right now and putting them down in their root cellars and various places of storage for the time when Mitch McConnell, the Grim Reaper of the Senate, takes all of our hemp products away too, unless you write your congressman. They are formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. Not your congressman. CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp. Once again, 30% off your first order with the code JCE. That's an easy to remember code, Brian. Would you like me to repeat it?
One more time.
JCE.
Yeah.
All righty. Let's go back to this fiasco. Another blood and guts advantage match with Darby Allin against Danny Garcia. Besides the fact that this is the same cast of characters that interacts every goddamn week, at this point, they have made Darby, at least in their universe, a somewhat credible challenger for the world title. And he's had these matches with Moxley. And he's going to go 15 minutes with Danny Garcia, who, again, I'm sure he's a nice kid that they like, but Jesus H. Christ. So recess lasted about 15 minutes. Then Darby got a sharpshooter and Garcia tapped. And then Pac came in and beat up Darby, but Pockets came in and hit Pac with 13 fake punches in a row. Pac didn't go down. Wheeler came in and stopped somebody, Pockets. Lots more fake punches. Here came Roderick Strong. Dick the Boozer came in. Kyle O'Reilly came out. And suddenly Roddy just jumped over a couple of people and nailed Moxley, and the heels ran off. When did they have the last TV show where they didn't do what I just described, at least at one point, if not multiple points in the show, with the same people?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, somebody took me up on that. I said, somebody ought to do the research on what percentage of matches in AEW are like just regular matches and what percentage are multiple man matches. And they did the numbers and considered tag matches part of multiple man matches, but it was like 65-35 for the multi-man matches. So then,
just one last thing about that.
Yes.
Garcia's not picked up any muscle. He doesn't look like a wrestler. I don't care how good technically he is to some people, and I've never really seen any of the growth there or anything. He doesn't look imposing in any way. And if you tune into the show around 9 o'clock and that's what you see, Darby can get away with it because he's a gimmick.
He's a gimmick.
But Daniel Garcia, it stands out. You know, that looks as indie as anything. Just doesn't look like a wrestler.
Well, there's nothing there. There's no presentation. There's no personality. There's no promo. There's no look. There's no charisma. It's a guy doing moves. Are you ready for the week's acting performance from inside the actor's studio, along with a creative helping of Tony's scintillating booking? Do you remember one of the Clash of Champions when Baba sent his top Japanese guys over, are supposed to have a match on the TV special, and they did a swerve angle in WCW, it's like 91 or whatever, and locked them in the dressing room?
That was 89.
And replaced them?
That was 89.
89, that's right. Yes.
I think it was going to be like Michael Hayes, Sting, and the Junkyard Dog against, was it the Road Warriors and Tenryu? I forget exactly what it was, but it was something like that.
Well, it ended up that's why Baba never worked with him again, right? He was so insulted. Yeah. Well, this time, Bro Dildo got locked in the locker room. Bandito and Brody King so FTR's doing a promo in the ring, and there's no Stokely. And they're out there, they're in t-shirts and sweatpants. They've given up. They just look like two guys now. And they're cutting a promo saying they're the number one contenders for the tag team title. And they call out Bandito and Brody King, the champions, and they play the music, but they don't come. And suddenly we go to the back with the camera and Renee Moxley Good with Stokely in front of the locker room that says Brodito locker room. And there's somebody pounding on the other side of the door, and Stokely saying, well, you know, I don't know, they can't be. I don't know. What the fuck? So they've got the camera standing by where these people have been locked in the fucking room. And they go back to show it. And then they come back to the ring, and Dax says, oh, I'm so upset that they can't be out here. And then Bandito's family, including the grandmother, that apparently they've done another angle with at some point, is sitting ringside, and he cuts the heel promo on them, and it wasn't Lawler and Stu and Helen, was it? It's so fake, and it's not good material, and it goes on too long, and Granny and the family have varying expressions. One of them, I guess Bandito's brother, is wearing a mask. And it well,
he's a wrestler.
Well, whatever.
That's gravity.
Are you serious?
That's gravity. FTR beat up gravity here.
Well, at least they did better than Isaac Newton did. But the whole thing doesn't come together. And I don't know if he was supposed to show it or not, because it's kind of a heelish thing, but Dax had the Spanish that he was speaking to Granny written on the palm of his hand. Did you see that?
I thought that was a nice touch, actually. I thought that was good.
Well, if it was intentional, I don't know.
Oh, it had to be. It had to be.
Well, you never know with this fucking show. And so then he says, give me a little kiss in Spanish, and he leans over, and she's supposed to slap him, but the woman has to be 85. And she kind of flicked her hand and tapped him, and he kind of sold it, and the people got it enough to get with it. But then the brother jumps the rail, and they have a fake fight. And while this is going on, they go back to the video of Stokely in front of the door, but he's there for 2 seconds, and Brody King's fist comes through the door and grabs Stokely, and he gets free and runs off. And then he runs out to the ring, and the baby faces are following him, and they run the heels off. It's all so fucking fake, isn't it? Just why?
As someone married to a Latina, I think the most realistic thing was the idea that FTR were threatening this old Latina woman and some other women behind them, and they weren't scared at all. They were having a great time. They were smiling. They didn't seem bothered. I don't know why Gravity jumped the rail. It didn't seem like Grandma was bothered at all.
No, she was doing good.
She didn't have any problem at all.
And by the way, the door was hollow too. It was not just a hollow door. I understand that many doors these days are not solid, but it was like a drywall door that he could put his fist through, both sides of it hollow in the middle, but the sides of it were only. Arena doors are not made out of balsa wood or drywall. I'm sorry.
Well, at least they got away from making fake rooms. Now they just do doors.
Ugh.
Are you excited for Brodito versus FTR?
No, I'm not. Because if you want to see a match, by the time they get finished promoting it, you've changed your mind.
Did you see the thing backstage with Jurassic Express?
Oh, I skip all the backstage stuff because if I started breaking that down and how phony and bad acting it is, it'd take me forever. But what did they do?
Well, they were walking towards the camera doing a promo. Jack Perry still can't talk in a realistic way. But now he's kind of dressed almost like if Indiana Jones joined Greenpeace. And he took out his knife and they stabbed a $100 bill and left it there. Because they're about to have this big money match against the Bucks.
Oh, yeah, because Don Fallis is trying to get the Bucks to join his family of 18. Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't fuck the Octomom. But they're broke, so they need all this money, but every time they get a chance at winning the money, they lose. But now there's going to be a $1 million, and nobody believed a $1 million tag match, $400,000 battle royal. What? That's why I say he's just doing the same thing over and over, Tony. He's lost it. He's hit the wall. He can't get out of it. It's not a fun place to be.
See, the funny thing is, if you're an AEW fan defending it, your only defense is, man, how could it be $1 million? I didn't believe it when it was 500,000. Now it's $1 million. The only defense is, well, the owner's a moron. And he just spends money like crazy. Of course it would be $1 million. Why wouldn't you believe this? This is not Vince McMahon. This guy will throw money out the window.
And besides that,
that's the only defense. That's the only defense.
The Buckaroos were so happy to spread the publicity when they got the multi-million-dollar contracts, became the highest paid tag team of all time from this guy. And that was only a couple of years ago, but now they're broke. And Nick of all people, these right-wing religious simpletons lost $500,000 at a casino. But Nicky doesn't even know how to play fucking blackjack. It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's the tag team division.
So then another blood and guts advantage match came up, but this time on the women's side. Megan Brain versus Mina Mellons. And that ended up with all 8 or 10 or however many girls going to be in this thing, all in a schmaz. You couldn't, half of them street clothes. You couldn't keep track of who was on whose side. And it was all to plug the girls' garbage match that I guess is coming up at, what is that, next week? They have the girls' garbage and then the men's division garbage the following week and then the pay-per-view the week after that.
Oh, boy.
What about if they take one of the men's blood and guts teams and put it against the women's and vice versa? Would that make it more interesting?
Yes, actually it would. Have there ever been as many War Games matches with people that don't belong in a War Games match? Just makeshift groups put together with no main eventers. It's terrible.
And they're actually going to do the War Games at Survivor Series, right?
Right. Although Tony, I think, does it more in line with the traditional way with a roof and, WWE.
No, blood and guts is the all over the building shit.
No, there have been people that have gone off the roof, I think. I think they have a roof in Blood and Guts.
No, that's the fucking other kind of cage thing they do.
No, it's Blood and Guts.
And Guts. I thought the football field.
Yeah.
The football field fuckery The arena,
Stadium
Anarchy
Stampede.
in the Arena, Stadium Stampede. That's that match. Okay, the Blood and Guts is, yeah, so they're going to have, and goddamn it, is the WWE going to have a women's War Games?
You know it. Equality.
Oh, Christ. So 4 of them.
Anything you could do, I could also do on the same show.
In November, we used to put big matches on TV to increase the ratings. Now they're trying to kill the business in November. 4 of them, 2 women, 2 men. I guarantee you 3 of them are going to be the shits. We'll see if it's a clean sweep. It could be. So then we're ready for our main event, Brian. The 6-man tag team championship with Samoa Joe, Hobbs, and Poopy against Page and Kingston and Hook. And we knew they were going to run over because the bell started 6 minutes left in regulation time. And did you do the count on the opening salvo from Hangnail, Page, and Shapoopy?
No.
They started by locking up, and Page hit Shapoopy with 28 fake-looking forearms. Not only did he not even go to a knee, but they immediately went out of that into a running spot. Do you know how much money you would have had to pay any babyface in the wrestling business 40 years ago to tell them, okay, I want you to hit the fucking heel in the face 28 times and then shoot him off? The guy would have given his notice. What the fuck? So they did all the same shit they usually do. And for some reason, they're intent on having Hook involved in this, where people are going to just laugh at him because he so obviously doesn't belong. And then about 5 minutes into the overrun, Hobbs took Page to the stage. That sounded like I was trying to do a limerick there, didn't it? Hobbs takes Hangnail up onto the stage and power slams him off the stage through a table to the floor, so that he's there for the rest of the fucking night. And back in the ring, Hobbs puts Hook in the torture rack badly, sideways, not like Luger would upside down. And Hook tapped out. And that was it. So they're building in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a world title match. And the world champion and the top challenger were on opposite sides of this 6-man. And they finished it with the challenger not getting the win and the champion laying in the goddamn orchestra pit in the back of the arena. Was that about what happened?
Yeah. You know, it's weird with Hook. There was a time where he was the best protected person in AEW, you could argue. Fans were chanting for him. He didn't do anything. It was kind of, they were just into the character. Now we've seen it. And like you said, he doesn't belong in there with...
Now, well, that's the problem, is now we've seen it. It never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And now he's just this kind of skinny kid with a funny haircut standing next to these big guys, and nobody believes it. But Tony's thing, I'll say this and I'll be done. Tony's thing is, he thinks that most people, or the majority of people, think like he does, that once somebody is over, in his mind, oh, he's over now, so then he can go away for 6 months. And then when he comes back, we'll just mention briefly in passing was something that he did 9 months ago now, and they'll remember it, and they'll be right with it. And everybody's always the same. Nobody ever changes. If Okada was over to him 5 years ago, then he'll be over now, even though Okada's obviously crippled, broke down, unmotivated, don't give a shit, whatever his problem is. He can't see it. He doesn't see that anything changes, and that he thinks everybody will remember everything. no matter how long ago it was. And there are some things that qualify for that.
Maybe they would.
Hook and every move he ever made is not one of them.
And maybe they would if he was actually good at writing TV. Instead of just throwing things against the wall and then booking half the things to happen on Saturday.
Good point.
Well, that was the briefest Dynamite review I think we've ever done.
There's nothing to it anymore. And I mean,
well, you said it earlier when I never even thought of it just in that context. I think it was the Moxley Darby post-match stuff and the Garcia match. It's the same people interacting this way. What'd you say? When was the last episode they didn't do this? I don't know. They've been doing this forever. The same things keep happening and the roster doesn't grow. It's the same people doing them over and over and over again.
And you mentioned this earlier, and I don't even know if I gave you a full answer, but the roster ain't going to grow because there's nobody left. He's raided all the other international companies. Everybody that's worth a shit in the United States is tied up. He blew a number of big signings that he was able to do previously when all those loopholes weren't closed and there were guys he could get. And either it didn't work out like with Punk, or it at some points he would bring people, we've talked about it, where you would think, okay, this guy could make a difference and show up to big fanfare, Edge. And he makes people that are stars already not stars anymore and just part of the crew within weeks. So I don't know what else different they're going to. If this was a territory anywhere in wrestling, anywhere before the last 20 years or so, the promoter would have said, I'm going to fire the booker and I'm going to get a new booker that's going to bring in almost a completely different crew. And he would fire the booker and he would hire another booker and he would say, this guy, and this guy are my guys. They're protected. You can't get rid of them. Otherwise, draw me some money. And the whole roster would change. The whole presentation would change. And it would look completely different except for those loyal, local over guys that the promoter didn't want to get rid of. And that made it look completely different. And then you could revitalize something. That's not possible here because Tony won't get anybody else to book. I don't know who it would be if he did. And there's no way to change the roster. There's nobody else.
Well, those were the ratings. AEW Dynamite.
Yeah. And the ratings are all late also, and they're all down. And it's the beginning of the end. But you know what this is, don't you, Brian, as relates to the end?
What's that?
The end of the end. Because it's the end of the show, and it's time now for you to take over. The drive-thru will be out in a couple of days from now, and the experience has come to an end. Are you sad?
I am sad that it'll be just a few days until we get to do this again.
I can hear it in your voice, the sadness and the misery. Yes. Folks, thank you for listening to us. Please listen to us always, and sooner or later we'll get it right. Until then, thank you. Fuck you. Bye-bye, everybody.